Sound effects. This starts.
Yeah.
My reaction to watching these movies. Everything you've heard
Complimentary.
is true. Complimentary. Welcome to I Hope You Suffer.
Amazing.
Uh, this is our 7-year anniversary episode. Um,
Boop, 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 boop.
Short Fisherman.
Perfect.
I'm director of some kind of monster, Joe Berlinger.
That's all I want to talk about.
Yeah, same.
That doesn't surprise me. I'm gonna be.
KDB Man in Yellow Hat, uncredited.
You outed me. That's me. That is me. Man, not uncredited. Here I am. Hello.
Hi, we're going to talk about the Blair Witch movies.
Yeah.
This is a rough week for me. On top of
I don't know why you got like 3 really good movies.
oh man,
Yeah, I don't know what your problem is.
3 real bad movies, but one I was like, this is so bad that it circles around to
Being amazing.
possibly being a 5-star movie. I could not rate it. Yeah, we're gonna talk about the Blair Witch Project, Book of Shadows, and Blair Witch. And I did not find time to watch the 7 Bear Wench Project movies, unfortunately.
I can't
Sad.
believe it.
Uh,
Sad but true.
Yep.
Um,
So
so
how was that movie not filmed like a fucking documentary? That shit drives me fucking crazy.
I'm so
Hire a
perplexed
guy
by
who
that.
only makes documentaries, and then have him
Yeah.
make the one narrative feature or whatever of the 3.
It makes no sense. However, okay, so what episode? A couple episodes ago, I feel like I personally am constantly talking about and thinking about the Blair Witch Project. Um, and so,
She texts the group chat all the time, just Blair Witch facts.
It's constantly just pictures of the stick figures, and I'm just like, what the fuck,
Yeah.
Katie?
I love the stick figures. And then a couple episodes ago, Nathan and I did Ghost Watch, which you can go listen to, where we talked not extensively, but we did talk about the Blair Witch Project because of the nature of Ghost Watch, which was something that is a movie that is fake, that is presented to be real in an aspect of trying to convince the public that it is real, right? And so we both kind of already talked about our experience with Blair Witch Project, and we will again just for the sake of the conversation, but because Kit wasn't on that episode, I wanted him first to kind of talk about what his relationship is to Blair Witch.
Kid, are you dating Blair Witch?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think she's Wiccan. Uh, I remember all the hype for it whenever I was, 10, and it freaked everyone out at school, and I didn't see it. I don't think we even had internet at the time, so I missed out on the the
The
viral
website and stuff.
marketing. Yeah,
Hmm.
but yeah, it remained a big thing forever, and I finally watched it in high school, and I kind of didn't really appreciate it because I thought it was boring, and then I watched it again in my 20s and was like, "Oh, no, this is actually fucking incredible and really freaky." And I had zero fucking idea they had made a second one. Uh because no one talked about that shit.
Yeah.
Uh and then the third one I was actually really hyped for because by that time I really enjoyed the original and I had grown to enjoy the second one, which is so batshit fucking stupid. It rules.
It's
And
it's up with Queen of the Damned as maybe the most 2000s movie I've ever seen.
oh yeah, you couldn't think up a more
All right.
2000s sequel
which
to a film.
explains a lot about
I,
Katie.
I was gonna say I feel like that's a fair assessment, and I'm not offended by it.
No,
I
look,
stand by Queen of the Damned.
what I will say about Book of Shadows is it's like I said, it's garbage, but it kind of rocks because it's. I was just like, I'm fucking baffled every fucking scene, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. So if you didn't listen to the Ghostwatch episode and you don't want to go back and watch it, that's fine. I essentially have been obsessed with the Blair Witch Project since it came out. I was 12 and I basically was talking about how like obviously they wanted this to seem like it was real, right? And I went to the movie theater and watched this movie totally. I was like not of the age where, because Nathan was kind of like, well, the actors were on whatever late night show.
Yeah,
Like
I
obviously
remember.
they're not missing and dead and like they're alive. I
They
don't
got better.
they did get better. I don't remember that aspect of it. I remember the website. Like I remember dialing onto my AOL disc or whatever the fuck and going to the website. I'm going to talk very briefly about Curse of the Blair Witch, which is the documentary that they aired on Sci-Fi before the movie came out. I remember watching that. I'm I was convinced and my friends were convinced that this was real. I went to see the movie in the theater by myself. Again, I don't know
That's
what,
crazy.
I don't know who, like whatever. And I remember being so scared and at the very I think I've told this
You
story.
you gotta
At
you
the
gotta do the voice when you say that.
so
So
scared.
scared.
Um, and I remember at the very end of the movie, the shot where, she pans up and you can see Mike like standing in the corner. I looked away because I was so scared, and then all you hear is like a yell and a thump and like the movie goes dead. And so for the longest time, I didn't actually know what the ending was, and somehow that was like scarier to me. I'm like, why didn't I just look? So then finally I rewatched it like whenever I was able to rent it or whatever, but this was like years later. And then I was like, okay, yeah, no, this still really, really rocks. And it's so funny to me because like very clearly now, like it's weird to me if you well, okay. So my sister-in-law was like, hey, do you want to go do something on Monday? And I was like, sorry, like I'm recording, we're doing like all
Yeah,
the
I'm
Blair
talking
Witch.
about Blair Witch, all right?
I'm talking about my life's work, my life's passion, the Blair Witch. And she was like, oh, I never saw that. And I was like, well, you would hate it. And so she Googled it and she basically laughed and was like, why did I think that this was real? And I was like, oh, I'll explain it to you what happened.
Because it is.
But it's so interesting to me that like if you are that it just kind of like the movie reputation at this point kind of precedes itself because like she never saw the movie. She's not into horror at all. Like she doesn't even really watch thrillers. And so the idea that somebody in 2025 Googled this movie and remembered at the time like remembers it just by reputation and being like, "Oh, I thought it was real this entire time," to me is so fun. And um I don't know. I've just like literally been obsessed with like the whole I don't even know the term you would use for this, like the whole encompassing idea of like not only the movie, the deep lore that goes behind it because there's like it's like one of those things where there's so much shit peripherally that if you have the wherewithal, some of the stuff I could not get my hands on. Like well, I'll talk about it in a second. It adds to the lore, and it's just like such a random thing to have such like a deep, like we're just gonna be like the tip of the iceberg here in this episode talking about the movies or whatever. And so I don't know, like the whole thing is just like such my shit that I highly recommend all of them. Like I stand by the second one. I think that Blair Witch, what was it, 2016 or whatever.
Yeah,
I do feel like it's got some
awesome.
things in it that are redeeming. Like well, we'll get into it. Anyways, that's my like piece on it. Do you want to add anything, Nathan? I know you like don't really
Yeah,
like
opposite of what
it.
Katie said. All of it.
Yeah, except Blair Witch 2.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
He was an
so
adult when he saw him. He
that was
hated him.
this was my thing. Like, I remember seeing like the hype for this when it was first premiered or whatever at like whatever festivals and shit. and being like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, interesting, because I was like 16 or something at the time. And then, like I said, like I started seeing, because like the idea of like, oh no, this is a real thing, and they got like the footage or whatever. Be like, that's weird. I'm interested. And then seeing like all of the actors and shit on like Conan O'Brien or whatever the fuck,
Sure. Yeah.
and having that being kind of like, oh, well, okay, I get it. I see what this is now. And then like watching it whenever it came out on like DVD or whatever, and it's just like I've talked about on here. Found footage is just not for me, and like the first one, it's like I. I think it's one of those movies where, again, I think I'm more interested in like the making of and like the cultural impact shit than I am the movie, because the movie's just like it's another one of those ones where I was like, I hate everybody in this and I hate spending any time with them. So like it's just is a rough one for me, but I do like appreciate like its sort of like stance in the like horror marketplace or whatever. Like I do think it's
Like the
like,
impact of
yeah,
it.
like it's an interesting thing that exists and like existed and like what happened with it. And I also like the two things that like really make me angry about it are that Jason Blum passed it up and still had a fucking career when
Okay.
he cost
I
his
have
whatever's like Miramax or whatever fucking studio he was at the loss of like almost $300 million in profit, and still managed
yeah.
to have the career he did.
I have something to add on to that
Devastating.
really pisses me off.
Is that he's the producer of the upcoming one?
Yeah, what the fuck? He should not be allowed to have
Yeah,
any say in it. He was
get him out of
literally
here.
like, he's like, no, sounds like trash. Bye. And
Yeah.
then he's like, oh, actually, after like decades, it was just like this year's like, I think last year was the 25th anniversary of the first one or something, which barf. But like, sir, kindly see your way out. Do you know what I'm saying?
I mean, hear
I
me
don't
out.
know. I'll
Put
still watch it, obviously,
put
but
Megan in it, and it'll be fine.
well,
Uh,
I
I'm gonna be honest. I thought you meant like the stallion,
yeah.
not not the doll, because the
Put
doll's
I'd
lost
watch
so
Megan
much
the
cultural
Stallion in there.
impact.
look, put both.
Yeah, I much prefer Megan the Stallion in it.
Yeah, yeah.
The other thing
Um,
that like I just like, it's kind of the same thing with like The Shining for me, where like hearing about how like these actors were treated throughout the years has
yeah.
really like
Hmm.
put a fucking damper on rewatching it, where I'm like, they had
Yeah,
to sign a fucking waiver to say they were fine with being mentally tortured throughout recording, and like
Yeah.
the director talked about how he fed them so little that it made them so agitated that they started arguing with each other endlessly, and that's what like a lot of the footage. And I was like, this is a bummer. I don't like this.
Yeah. This is some real like cursed video,
Like,
like cursed movies like background. I think also like I just like can't even get into it because there's so much to say. Like we could do I feel like we could do an entire separate episode on like the
the behind the
treatment,
scenes,
the fallout of it because like
no
even
one getting fucking paid
yeah, I was
for
gonna
it.
say
yeah,
there was a
even to
big
this
thing around the
day,
25th anniversary for it, where like
yeah.
the actors came out. They're like, oh yeah, we have made zero money off this movie. That
Right,
we
Yeah,
like Heather,
one of the highest
like
grossing independent films
live
of all
maybe
time.
the most fucking profitable movie ever
yeah,
made.
yeah, and it's obviously sucks. But again, I feel like we could really spend like an hour talking about how terrible the conditions for workers are, especially then. And like,
Yeah,
okay, I really
Well,
can't get
but
into
like
it.
it's also like this was not like a like whatever like Hollywood produced movie. This was like
Right.
people who just
yeah,
went out and did a thing and then like were able to sell it on the market afterwards. And like I
Well,
get it. There's something like we've talked about with some movies where it's like the director's fucking family had to get involved, and like there was no food and just like whatever, like things happen on independent productions to get the movie made. But it's like I don't think you need to absolutely torture your
yeah.
actors to get a quote unquote realistic performance when like
Does not need to go that far.
you could also
no.
just hire better actors. Get Nick Cage to play every single role. You'll be fine.
Having
I
them use their real names also is like just kind of
Oh,
extra fucked,
that was the
such
the
a
you
third
know?
one
weird.
had it too, where like all they did was like if your name was like Vanessa Parker, it was like Vanessa
Vanessa,
Tucker is the one.
yeah.
That
I'm
was
like,
the second one. Yeah.
I was like, come on.
Um,
Also, just real quick, sorry, Katie. I came up with an idea on how to reboot Nightmare on Elm Street with a new Freddy. I think it's John Travolta has to play Freddy.
I'm in.
I will
I
watch the
actually
shit
was
out of
gonna
that.
ask the guy. I didn't go into Letterboxd and like look up anybody. The dude who plays Lane in the third movie, is he related to what's his name? Because I thought he looked exactly like him, Freddy
uh,
Krueger.
I don't think
Look it
so.
up. I thought he looked so like him, and I was like, wow, if they did a reboot, he could play him. And so it's like weird that you brought that up.
He
Let me
was
look.
in John Claude Van Damme's Until Death.
I've seen that.
Hell yeah.
I mean, if
Oh no, Wes Robinson.
yeah, I mean,
No, but he looks so like him, I think.
is this dude
Anyways,
still alive? Because his bio on Letterboxd is actor, made films during his career.
I think that probably means he's not acting anymore and he doesn't want people to like look him up or whatever.
This dude looks more like oh man, I just fucking forgot his name. The comedian that played like kind of a dumb redneck in like every movie in the 90s.
Larry the Cable Guy.
No, I'll figure it out. Hold on,
Okay.
while we're talking.
Okay. Okay, so basically I watched 5 movies for this.
Well, that's
And
crazy.
yeah, okay, but I'm just gonna go over very quickly the Blair Witch franchise as it is now, because there's like
Harland Williams
a
is
lot
what I
of
was thinking of, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Harlan
Yeah, I see
Williams.
that.
He was in like Half Baked. He was like one of the.
Oh! I know who you're talking about. Yeah, yeah, I could see that. So the first thing that came out in the Blair Witch franchise is
Cinematic universe.
there you go, is Curse of the Blair Witch, which, like I said, is that special that they aired on Sci-Fi before the movie came out, which I took some really quick notes on. I'll just go over that really quick. Then the Blair Witch Project movie came out. Along with that, they have the Blair Witch Project dossier, which is a collection of like fake news reports, police reports, communication between the people in the movie, etc., etc. That's the one that I own. I'm obsessed with it. I have not read it all though, and I really wanted to, but as I was telling Nathan, I got so sick after I was out of town twice, and I just have had no time to do anything, so I'm sorry. There's
That's what you get for going to Burkittsville.
That's right. Listen, sorry girl. I didn't bring my proper sacrifice there, so
You knocked over a cairn.
shit. I would actually genuinely be so scared of that. And then there's also a comic that came out with the same title. Then we have Shadow of the Blair Witch, which is again another documentary that was shot more of like a true crime documentary that came out before Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2, which is essentially the same thing except it is talking about the murders that occurred that the movie Book of Shadows Blair Witch 2 is based off of. So in the very beginning of Book of Shadows, there is a blurb that basically says everything you're about to see is a reenactment of things that happened following the events of the Blair Witch Project. That's, again, as Nathan said, absolutely no idea why you would choose to do a cinematic style reenactment of something, but have a like documentary person direct it. Like
It's so funny.
it's very strange. And his documentary on West Memphis 3 was like wildly popular. So I don't really
Yeah.
understand why they went this angle.
It
And like
it
Some
I
kind of monster also.
it
Like,
fucking
well, more
baffled.
importantly, obviously.
It fucking baffled me seeing that's who directed it and that they did not do like it could have been a like faux documentary about like people obsessed with the first
Yeah.
movie or some shit.
Metallica.
It's insane
Oh.
by everybody involved that at the studio was like, well, the first one did so well. If we make it for real as a real movie, it'll do even better.
Yeah. If we make an
Yeah.
actual movie about how cool the first movie was,
Yeah.
it'll do
And
great.
I don't think I need to like even say this, but Joe Berlinger like hates the movie. Obviously there was a lot of studio interference, etc., etc. I still think that there's redeeming qualities in the movie, which obviously we'll get into.
Yeah, the
Um,
cool owl.
especially the especially when Kim eats the owl and it's just a chicken wing. I love that.
Yeah.
So yeah, then theatrically released was Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. Have no idea really why it's called Book of Shadows.
Yeah, same.
Doesn't
Yeah,
really
there's no
sort of
book.
I assume, okay, we'll get into it. Okay. After that, there is Blair Witch, The Secret Confessions
Katie's
of
gonna say
Rustin
this for
Parr.
every recap, every portion of it. We'll get into it.
Yeah. There was so that is a dossier. There was also a dossier for Blair Witch 2. I have never seen it. I've never put my hands on it. I don't know. It exists somewhere. There's also a comic for that movie called Blair Witch Dark Testaments. I have not read any of the comics.
That that should have been called the Book of Shadows, the comic books.
Yeah, no, sorry. Dark Testaments and Blair Witch
Unbelievable.
Project. Yeah. Then there are this, you know, I need to get my grubby hands on this. There is a 8-book series that's standalone that are young adult books called The Blair Witch Files, starring Cade Merrill, who is Heather's cousin, while he's going around investigating paranormal phenomenon around the Blair Witch. I need them.
Sounds
Haven't seen them.
sounds
Don't know
bad.
where they are. Amazing. Then there's also a standalone book called Blair Witch Graveyard Shift, which is just like a random story that takes place in like 1995 for some reason. Don't know, haven't read it. Then there's also 3 video games that you can play. One's called Rustin Parr, one's The Legend of Coffin Rock, and one is the Ellie Kedward Tale. Obviously, you're going to hear me say Rustin Parr, Coffin Rock, and Ellie Kedward probably 1,000 times in this talkings abouts. There's also a documentary called The Burkittsville 7, which is I did not watch that one, so I don't know. It's something to do with Rustin Parr and his 7 victims who are children. So I don't know. There's stuff involving kids in this. And then there was the new movie, which is to be announced. And that's what I was talking about. Lionsgate obviously took over, and Blumhouse is also ironic, huh? I say to you, see your way out, sir. But here we are.
Hollywood is the most baffling place on earth where, like, you could fucking be a failure that bad that it just, like, you still become a fucking multi-millionaire.
I
I
was
just like wild.
really hoping Megan had finally ended that
No,
ended that company.
no, it ended a bunch of
Nope, sorry.
employees that had nothing to do with Megan flopping.
Yeah, because of course it did.
That, like, they fired like 18 fucking people at Blumhouse, but not Jason Blum.
No, of course not.
He's got to keep
Okay,
trying to get
so
his grubby little fucking fingers on Friday the 13th.
well, I sort of feel like at this point anything he's gonna want, he's gonna get.
Not Nightmare on Elm Street, apparently.
Good.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I don't know. He might be able to get John Travolta in there, and then I'm in.
Well,
Sins will be forgiven.
Yeah.
yeah.
John Travolta.
I'll
We'll
become
back the
I'll become
Kickstarter.
a Blumhouse fanatic.
Oh yeah, before I start actually going into the actual movies, I do have a soda talk. And it is the Chucky's Punch Fanta.
Oh yeah, I have that in my refrigerator. I forgot about it.
I'm not really sure why I bought this because I'm not really a fan of Fanta or like punch juice style sodas, but you know what? Something about the design got me. He's creepy looking on it. The label is like striped like his little t-shirt, and I was like, you know what? I'm into it, so I'm gonna try it.
I also only buy drinks based on if the person on the label for it is creepy looking.
I mean, you kind of can't go wrong. I
I had
already,
no idea there were horror Fantas.
Yeah.
I think I saw Chucky and then for some reason Five Nights at Freddy's, which I guess
Yeah.
is on the same level.
There's
As
Michael
Chucky.
Myers and
Oh, okay.
the Grabber from the Black Phone.
Oh yeah, also way up there in iconic
Horror icon, the
horror
grabber.
icon, the grabber.
I have to
But at
Horror
assume
least
icon, the child
all of those
pedophile. Okay,
characters are owned by the same studio, maybe.
they've got to be.
I'll say
Um,
fucking like Five Nights at Freddy's. I get at least like that's a hugely popular thing, even if it's
yeah.
only had the one movie. But
Well, I mean, at least it has a
the grabber,
basis in like games. There's also comics, but yeah, the grabber, he's in one movie.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess he's got a Funko Pop, so that makes
Put
him
the fucking
whatever.
goalies on a soda.
they
I
should put Art the Clown
honestly,
on it.
Yeah.
where's your womp womp noise? All right, I'm gonna try.
They put
Chuck E.
razor
Punch.
blades in the soda. God, I fucking hate Terrifier.
It's real blood in here. That's why it's red.
Yeah. It's so cool.
I actually
There's
like this
gore.
more than I thought.
Katie, we're making
It
fun
kind
of
of,
Art the Clowns. Hold on.
yeah, I
No,
can
I'm
hear,
just
I
kidding.
can hear that. It kind of tastes just like a generic fruit by the foot.
I literally just assume it just tastes like
Huh.
fucking red pop.
Well, it is punch. It's quote unquote punch flavored soda and other natural flavors. But I would say that even though this shit has 70 grams of sugar, it's actually not as sweet as I expected, which is maybe why I like it a little bit more.
Fanta put more sugar in there.
I don't think they need to.
Disagree.
85 more grams.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Fanta turn into Surge.
Oh, that So I don't know. This is fine. If you like punch, if you like fruit punch, then go for it.
Be like punch. Go get a knuckle sandwich.
I know I usually say like, you know what, this kind of has like also like a cherry soda kind of vibe to it. But I know normally I'm like, oh, it'll be fine as a mixer. I don't think I will be mixing this. I don't think I will be like, I think 3 sips, even though I said it wasn't that bad, I think that's enough for me, unfortunately. Thank you, Chucky, for your service.
You should mix it with the Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, that's probably the move. Thought you were gonna tell me to mix it with Fireball for some reason, and I was gonna
Oh God,
vomit. Okay.
I will never recommend anyone drink Fireball.
No, me neither. So yes, so we're gonna start with Curse of the Blair Witch, which aired, like I said, on Sci-Fi before the movie even came out, which kind of like led more to it seeming like it was like a real thing, because like supposedly when the Blair Witch Project movie starts, there is a scroll, like there is like text on the screen that essentially says in 1994 3 students like went out to the woods in Burkittsville, which is in Maryland, to shoot a documentary, and then a year later the footage was found. So like assumingly this footage was already found, clipped together or whatever, and then they put out a documentary saying like we're gonna show, because the thing that they aired on Sci-Fi is essentially people laying the foundation of the lore that takes place within the Blair Witch Project, some of which is talked in a lot of detail in the movies, and some of which is just kind of like mentioned. It like depends on what movie you're watching as to what lore they really cling on to. And so it's like interesting because the Curse of the Blair Witch kind of like lays everything out, and they've got people that are talking heads. Like one is supposedly like the town historian for Burkittsville. You've got like investigators, detectives, whatever, and they're showing clips of the documentary, quote unquote, Blair Witch Project in the show. But it's like those title cards. We do see them in the actual movie, but it's like, for example, in the beginning when they're shooting at that cemetery and Heather's like, 7 children are buried here. Like, it's like not the raw footage, it's like what she was shooting for the movie. So it's got that kind of that laid in. And it's like interesting to me because they do this in Shadow of the Blair Witch also, where they talk about actual real life things in it, being like, for example, for the one that's based off of the second movie, they're talking about like Marilyn Manson, not Marilyn Manson, Charles Manson.
Same thing.
I'm just like really eager
To get the Book of Shadows.
that. Well, we're going to. I essentially like took notes on Curse of the Blair Witch just because I have points about like some of the lore if some people get confused, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's
This
really
episode's for the lore heads,
Mm-hmm.
first and
I like
foremost.
kind of. And like I
All
said,
right?
we're
No,
not
Katie's
even
got a timeline that she's going to post along with this episode of the
This could be
podcast.
like the
I
fucking the Charlie in the fucking mailroom of It's Always Sunny.
Yeah.
that
There are
essentially is how
pictures,
I feel.
diagrams.
There are. But it's like really interesting because the documentary kind of focuses a lot on like Heather. It's like people in Heather's life talking about like remembering her because she's been missing at this point, right? So it's like her grandfather. They show actual baby pictures of Heather, Mike, and Josh, who are, like we said, the main characters. There's like a guy who's pretending to be Heather's professor whose class she was taking, and that's why she was making this documentary. And so stuff like that I just felt like was like such an interesting touch, and I thought it was really cool. But it's basically just like talking to people about the legends, which we'll get into in a little bit. But yeah, they just like aired that on Sci-Fi, which I remember seeing, and I remember like I just think that's so cool. Like the amount of work that people put into the Blair Witch just like literally blows my mind.
I miss sci-fi doing weird shit like that. Like I
Yeah.
remember them doing a similar thing for M. Night Shyamalan, like right before The Village
Oh.
came out, and they made it seem like he was like a haunted person, like he has spirits that follow him around, and that's why all of his movies are so creepy. Like,
I think you
I think
just
that was real.
explained why they don't do it anymore with The Village.
well, yeah,
But yeah, like we kind of talked about, like the viral marketing around this was just like so crazy, especially because like like I think Kit said, them using these people's like real names and then declaring them dead on the internet. There was the
Wild.
website, there was missing persons flyers, which I do kind of want to point out. If you're actually putting up a missing persons flyer, the one that was of Mike, it was Mike or Josh. You can't even see his face in the missing poster, so I guess that should have been a tick off. He's like hidden under the shadow of his hat, like nobody's finding him, right?
it's him standing in the corner, like. Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this plaid jacket?
It is crazy to me how like they were able to put up missing persons posters, and like everyone was just kind of like, "This is fine." But then the Aqua Teen Hunger Force people put up fucking LED lights of the alien characters in their show, and they were bombed. They got fucking terroristic bomb.
Yeah, I mean, like
against them and shit.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I feel like, we kind of talked about it a little bit in that Ghost Watch episode where there is obviously fallout, and sometimes you doing something for the first time, people are kind of just like, okay, well, like, you probably shouldn't do that again. And then if someone else does it, it's like, hey, this is actually, you can't do this or whatever. So
I just like,
I mean,
I think about how fucking like insane it is that like all of this stuff that went on with this was just like fine because like a major studio was paying for it. if fucking Mark Polonia was behind this, he would probably be in fucking jail for something. Like if just some like actual non big movie studio would like, if the people made this and just released it themselves instead of like whoever the fuck released this, like they would probably have gotten in so much trouble.
Yeah, Artisan, I think it might be the.
Yeah, I think that's it.
I know it wasn't fucking Blumhouse.
It sure wasn't.
Blumhouse, more like.
Yeah.
I do think it's really interesting that you said you would rather watch the making of this movie than watch the movie, because that's like literally why the movie was made. The two guys that were behind it were essentially just like, I love making of horror movies more than I like watching horror movies, so like why don't we do that? And that's like essentially where this came from.
Yeah, I mean, like I think like it's the idea behind it is interesting. I just don't like the execution of it, I think. And that's I think that's how I feel with like a lot of found footage stuff. Where like there's like, I feel like even if you just look at like Paranormal Activity, which is probably like the biggest comparison for like Blair Witch,
Yeah.
where like I think the idea behind that franchise is really interesting, and like kind of like with this first movie, there are like interesting shot setups in some of them, but overall I'm just like, I don't ever want to see this again. And I'd be way more interested in hearing like the people discuss how it was made more than anything.
Yeah,
Leaves Josh's real teeth and hair.
that's right.
That's unfortunate.
The screams were real.
It'd be so funny if like he was on like red carpets and shit and just had like no teeth, like just
Smiled
missing
and
like
he had no
Bunch of
teeth.
missing teeth,
5 teeth
patches
and
of hair.
chunks of hair pulled out.
They're like,
"Look,
he
you
signed the
yeah,
waiver.
You signed that waiver.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, 'cause
It is really interesting.
Sorry, this is real quick. Like I was reading about like how, like the scene where like the tent starts shaking when they're in the like asleep was like for real. They did not tell them they were going to come in and just like attack their tent while they were
fuck
asleep.
that.
And I'm like, God, dude, leave
Absolutely
these, like,
fuck that.
fucking leave these people alone.
Yeah, so essentially, the way, and like, I don't know, because I kind of speculate, if you've listened to any of our Ghost Adventures episodes, I do kind of speculate that's the setup of Ghost Adventures, where, I think sometimes, like, there are people hiding and they knock, and so the reactions are genuine because it's like, okay, it's not a ghost, but like, what the fuck was that? You know, like, because you don't know what's gonna happen. And there is like a very thin line between whether that is acceptable in the eyes of like, we're making a quote unquote art piece, or we're making a movie or whatever, right? Because that's everything that happens in the Blair Witch Project. That's what it was. It was like their honest reaction. So I think that
like they're consenting adults in it.
Right. But okay, so like for a perfect example, essentially the way that they shot it was that they brought them out into the woods and they would go off. The script was like very, very small because obviously most of it was like ad lib. It was essentially, okay, day one, you guys are gonna cross the river thing or whatever, and these are the key points. But other than that, like, we're not going to tell you what's happening. The crew stayed like a couple miles away from like where Heather, Mike, and Josh were. And then, like, obviously they would sneak up to the camp at nighttime and do stuff. And Heather, Mike, and Josh had no idea what the things were that they were going to be doing. Like, for example, one of the mornings they wake up and the cairns are there, which are like the piles of rocks. And so, like, they, in their tent, could hear that something was going on, but they didn't know what it was. And so, I don't know. I feel like, to me, that authenticity comes through in the movie. But then, like, you do have things like, yeah, okay, they're not feeding them. Also, if they're sleeping, like, we've all, I think, been on record in the past saying, the woods are fucking scary. Like, even though you're filming a movie, you are sleeping in the woods. Any sound that you hear, you don't actually know if it's like a crew member, if it's a fucking bear, like, we don't know.
Yeah, it could literally
And
be
so,
like literally just like some lunatic wandering around the woods that stumbles across your camp.
anything. Right. And so because of that, they didn't really sleep very well. So they're working under sleep deprivation. They're working under, like, yeah, they still did need to walk through the woods with their heavy packs and stuff, right? And them not really being able to eat or whatever. So, like, I feel like the emotions coming through for them seem genuine, and I don't know. I just, like, don't know if I feel like the movie would have worked without those conditions. However, I do think that it's shitty. I think it's, like, in hindsight, it's extremely shitty because this movie is, like, one of the most profitable movies ever, right? And we kind of talked about that. But, like, at the time that they're making it, they don't know this. The actors are, like, in their early 20s. They're like, okay, yeah, I'll do this movie. They had, like, 1.5-page contracts or something like that. That was basically just like, we're going to give you $1,000 to do this movie. And they're like, sure.
You're going to work for free.
Like, essentially. And, like, it's not great, but I don't blame I also think justice for Heather. I think she was shit on exponentially for no reason. Like she was the target of so much hate
Well, it's because she's
after
a
the movie
woman.
came out. Oh, I know. But I think I always liked her. Like, and of course, like she's yelling, she's like scared, she's screaming. Everyone's like, "Oh, she's shrill. She's not a good actress." I'm like, she's like doing the
Well,
most.
yeah, they're
And
not
these two
acting.
guys, exactly, it's real. And these two guys that are with her are pieces of shit. And when we go through the movie, I'm gonna show you what pieces of shit they are. And I hope that in hindsight, people watch the movie now and are like, "Oh yeah, these guys fucking suck."
Well,
And I think it's
I saw like a thing where she talked about like, she was literally, I believe, the only woman on set, and how like,
yeah, that wouldn't surprise
like
me.
you're hired for this, small movie from people that have never made anything before, so it's not like there's any sort of like back history you could be like, oh yeah, well they're like reliable or whatever. And I think
Right,
she
yeah.
said she like had to bring like she brought like knives with her because she was like, I'm going into the woods by myself with this group of men, and then
Yeah.
As she should,
and
yeah.
like like they're playing roles. Like I have to assume these dudes weren't like yelling at her relentlessly anytime they weren't filming, but it's like
Oh,
that
sure. Oh, sure. I mean,
has to take a
yeah,
toll. And so, but again, though,
yeah.
like they said, like they underfed them to make them like this agitated. So maybe there was some of that. Like I have no idea, but like yeah, I mean we've said it already, but it's just unnecessary to like make your movie. I think some of the aspects of them doing shit to them that I think works well that isn't like that sort of like, I don't know, problematic is like I think I read that like somewhat like right before they get to like the house at the end, that when they're wandering through the woods and you hear, I think, Josh just like screaming in the distance, like the director or whatever like set up speakers and recorded him like screaming previously and just started playing it, and they had like no idea that he was going to do that.
Sure.
Which, like,
Yeah.
I feel like something like that, where you're in like the middle of a scene where you're already supposed to be frantic, like, and it's just, like, I would just assume like the dude is off somewhere screaming for part of it. But like, I don't know, the attacking them in their sleep and shit like that, and like not feeding them is the shit where I'm like, come on.
Yeah. I wonder if they also knew that he was going to go missing.
I mean,
I don't
probably
know
they're
that part,
probably.
but
I would bet more than anything there was just like a brief outline of like the how the movie was going to play. So like it
yeah.
was probably like, introduction to the characters, you interviewing people in the town, like you going out in the woods, shit happens, the house,
Yeah.
whatever.
Night one, night
Yeah.
two.
But
Yeah,
like
exactly.
like we said, like the dialogue was probably just like all improvised
Yeah.
or like come up with somewhat on set based on like how shit was going.
I will say they did have a safe word in case there was an issue, and the safe word was taco. So, there you go.
I
Um,
do think like I guess like getting more into like the actual movie, like I think the one
yeah.
one thing they did extremely well that I think really still holds up is like the design of the weird stick figure things is
Hmm.
Oh yeah.
extremely fucking
I love
weird and
them.
creepy, and like
It's just
Yeah.
off-putting.
yeah, and like I think it was in this one. It was either in this or like the third one, I forget, where they talked about how like they put like real rune drawings throughout like the house or whatever, and that
Hmm.
instead of but like they just inverted them so they just look off, and it makes it like
Yeah.
creepier. I feel like it was in this first one, but maybe not. I, I do
Um,
you think they just like, well, maybe Katie might know from watching some of the things and reading about it. Was that like a house that they like just found and decided to film in?
no, so I don't think so. I don't know about the first one. I do specifically know that in the third one it was a set
Sure, I
that
well
they
we'll
built
get into
multiple.
the third one.
Yeah. So I assume it's a set still
I
because
have to
it's
assume they'd like I mean, clearly they probably scouted somewhat, or maybe were just familiar with the area, which is why they knew like the woods they could film in or whatever. And like I was just curious about that because like I would be so upset if they're just like, hey, we found this fucking random house, let's go inside.
Hey, go in
I'm
there.
like,
Yeah,
no,
no, I don't.
take your
I don't.
$200 you're paying me and get fucked.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it was a set because I specifically remember something about um the foundation in the second movie that they go to of the house is like fabricated and is not actually in a real location that you can go to.
I mean,
Sorry, sometimes I have to mute and cough,
no,
so.
you're fine. I don't know. I'm that I am kind of interested in. Like, at some point I probably will watch because there's like a shit ton of making of documentaries. Like I said, I find like
Yeah.
I feel like I'd be way more interested in those than the actual movie. But like, I hadn't thought about it when I like watched it originally, and now I'm thinking about it now. Like, I am curious if that was just like a place they were aware of and they maybe doctored up a little bit to make like more run down, or if they were just like in the woods and like, hey, we found this fucked up house in the middle of these woods. Let's go film in there.
I mean, I wouldn't have put it past them.
Yeah. Same.
Okay, so I figured we would spend most of the time on Blair Witch 2 and the new one, so I'm gonna go through Blair Witch Project, just bare bones what the blah, 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 plot of it is, so that we can talk about it in relation to the other ones. I assume everybody who's listening to this has probably seen the first one, but if you haven't, like, it's like pretty much already spoiled
I was
for you.
gonna say,
So
that feels like a thing that if you even remotely pay attention to horror movies, there's no way you don't know
exactly
what happens in this movie.
And so the thing that I think is like what makes this movie to me so good is it is very obviously like slow, right? Because the beginning parts of the movie, it's just kind of like the minutia of like starting their expedition before they actually go into the woods. There's like establishing shots, there's them getting together, there's them interviewing people. The thing that I think is so fun about the interviewing is that when they go to Burkittsville, they basically have people who the crew has planted to talk about whatever part of the lore. Then there's just like random people in the town that they approach, and like sometimes the people are like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. But then other times, specifically, they'll be like, hey, have you heard about the Blair Witch? And people will be like, hell yeah, I've heard of the Blair Witch. I've been hearing about her since I was 12. And they're lying. They're just like random people in the town that just like make shit up on the spot that have nothing, like they did not know that this was a documentary, fake documentary movie, whatever, which I think is so fun. Like specifically, I don't know if you remember the woman who was holding like the little kid that they interview.
Yeah.
She's not a plant. She just like made the shit up. And she's like scaring her child when she's talking about like whatever the story is that she told, which I think is so fun.
Were they just told like, hey, just say yes and then just make up what you think the Blair Witch was? Or?
Like so like they had people in the town that they said, you are a plant. So when they come up to you and interview you, you're going to talk about Rustin Parr, or you're going to talk about Ellie Kedward.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And then there was people who just like lived in the town that were normal citizens that had nothing to do with the movie, didn't know about the movie at all. And if Heather happened to approach those people, they would either be like I'm sure not all of the interviews were used in the movie, obviously, but sometimes they'd be like, have you heard of the Blair Witch? And the people would be like, no, I don't know what that is. Or there's the plants, or there's people who didn't know and just made it up because they wanted to be on TV. Like this woman says, yeah, I think I saw a documentary about her on the Discovery Channel, and she's just making it up. Like she was not a part of the movie, which is insane to me. I feel like I would do that. I'd be like, hell yeah, I know her. We're besties, you know?
I'd be like, who?
Yeah.
I only know... I can't think of another witch. Never mind.
So we start hearing about all of these happenings in the town, which is essentially like the lore of what's happened in Burkittsville. Back in the day, the town used to be called the Township of Blair, and this was like the 1700s, and we learned about Ellie Kedward, who was accused of witchcraft throughout the movies, there are different legends as to what happened to her. But essentially, the kids in the town accused her of bloodletting them. And the town was like, hey, don't do that. And then there's a couple
Stop
different
bleeding the children.
yeah. There's a couple different things that they say happened to her. Either she was pushed out into the woods and she died of exposure. One of them, she's like tied to a tree and then kids threw rocks at her or some shit. And then there's another, like, it just changes. And some people have issues with that changing, but in my mind, it kind of adds to the authenticity of the world, because one of the things okay, despite me saying that I love Blair Witch and I think about it all the time and I talk about it a lot, I don't go online and like look up theories.
No, that's true.
I'm not like a, I know, I'm not like a, I'm not like
yeah,
a
weirdo. You just read Blair Witch /fiction.
That's
Yeah.
right. I write it
Yeah,
actually.
I was gonna say and write it.
I don't like look up fan theories really, and I don't go on like message boards or whatever because like I just like don't have
BlairWitch.com.
I'm baffled to think that there are still people on message boards for Blair Witch.
There are.
That's insane to me.
People actively discuss Blair Witch. But what I don't see in the discourse of just like seeing it online is like a lot of people are talking about witchcraft. They're like, oh, Ellie Kedward's the witch, the Blair Witch, or this other person's the Blair Witch. This might be, I was going to say a hot take, but people probably don't even really care. I don't think that a actual entity that is the Blair Witch exists as a person.
All right,
like, I don't think the Blair Witch
this
is
podcast
real.
is over. Katie,
we're going to get so many comments on Spotify.
I'm sorry. Coming in with like the real takes here.
Hashtag canceled.
But you know what? I'm fine with it. I'm speaking out. Finally, I will not be silenced. Like I have not seen really people talk about the fact that like Maryland and the woods
fake?
and this like area.
Oh.
Well, it is fake.
All except
it
Baltimore,
is also
because John Waters, we all know, created Baltimore.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
He invented it.
The woods in Maryland is like part of the Appalachian Mountains, which is like very famous and notorious for all of this like folklore. And so when I watch the Blair Witch, I very much see in it just like folklore, which is basically like all of these tales that have been like passed down like verbally. And so a lot of times they change, like because it's like playing telephone, right? Like you're telling someone, oh, I heard she got skinned alive, and this other person's like, no, I heard she had horse hair all over her body. It's just like word of mouth. So the fact that it's changing to me kind of like adds to the atmosphere, and it's like more folklorish and like ancient wood stuff than it is like necessarily just like some random girl doing quote unquote witchcraft. Because it's kind of debunked like in the history in like the movies.
I think it's funny that there are people that argue about who, why, how the Blair Witch came to be, and I never once thought about it. Outside of when
never crossed my mind. Did not
possibly
matter.
Talk about it in the movie. I did not think about it a second time after that. Like, who cares?
Well, the only reason I really brought it up is because in the third movie, the creature at the end, people are like, why are they, the whole point of the Blair Witch is that you don't see her, why are they showing it to us? And like, I don't think that's the Blair Witch. I have a theory on who I think it is. But it's like one of those things where... Go ahead.
You know, in Psycho Gorman,
yeah,
when all of Psycho Gorman's buddies come back to attack him, and the one witch who gets her head kicked off or whatever, and it just rolls down the street. That's what I think Blair Witch is.
That's a pretty good theory. For a movie that came out like decades after.
Look,
I think it's the Noid.
Show us the real
shit.
meaning.
What if it's just the
Blair Witch?
Noid with like a Halloween like wig on?
Yeah, he's trying to steal your pizza.
You always hear,
I don't actually know how tall he is,
in the background.
That would actually be pretty scary.
Yeah, honestly, I'd be more scared of something trying to steal my pizza than anything else. So,
I mean, honestly,
don't be taking the freshness of my pizza. It's rude.
Well, anyway, she died, and The next year, all of the people who accused her of witchcraft and like literally left her to die, and like all half of the town's children just like disappeared or whatever. So they're like, oh my God, there's a curse now. And so the rest of the town fled, and then it was reestablished as Burkittsville. So here we are. And essentially they're just talking about how like every couple question mark amount of years, 60, 70, 80 years or whatever, something crazy happens, and they try and be like, oh, it was the witch, who they're trying to say, a lot of people in this universe speculate that Ellie Kedward is the witch, and I don't think she is. Anyways, a lot of people go off of that, right? So it's like that. Then there was an incident where because they talk about this a lot, so that's why I'm like saying what these things are now. They talk about the incident at Coffin Rock, which is a little girl goes missing, and a search party goes out to look for her, and they don't show up, so they send another search party, and then that search party finds the first search party, and they are naked and disemboweled and strung together, and also they have runes carved into their skin. So here's the runes again, right? And they're like, wow, that's disgusting. Obviously, Coffin Rock is cursed now. There's another incident with a girl named Eileen Treacle who was in the stream doing little girl stuff. I think she might have been fishing. I don't know. And 11 people said that they saw a ghostly hand come out of the water and pull her under and drown her. And it was only like ankle deep or something. So like she shouldn't have been able to drown, but she drowns.
11 people
weirdly,
is such a specific number.
I know. And weirdly, they really focus on this little girl in Book of Shadows. I'm not sure why, because her story is literally such a throwaway in like all of these incidents, but Joe Berlinger loved Eileen Treacle, I guess.
It doesn't sound like he loved anything that had to do with that movie.
That's all he loved was her. She's throughout the whole movie.
Other than maybe the soundtrack.
Sure, I mean, also a banger. And then the other thing that happened was Rustin Parr, who essentially, like, a bunch of kids went missing. People were like, that's weird. And then he comes on down from that holler and is like, hey, I'm done now. And they're like, what the fuck does that mean? He's like, oh yeah, I killed them kids. So essentially he would still steal children 2 by 2 and have them face the wall. And then he would like kill the other one without the other one watching, and then he would kill that one. One kid survived, so he only has 7 victims instead of 8. I also don't really understand why that's an important detail. But like I said, there's like so much shit throughout these that like it probably means something, and I just don't know. And so Rustin Parr is like the main thing that they like to talk about in these movies, because it's Rustin Parr's house that they find. Hence why at the end, you know, they're standing in the corner or whatever, and that standing in the corner thing comes back in the third movie too. Actually, and the second movie. So those are like the big things that they're like talking to people about. And that's why they're saying that the area is cursed. Okay. So they get all their equipment, they do all the interviews, they're finally into the woods, right? They leave the car behind. Like, for example, these like, and not for nothing, like you were saying, Nathan was saying that like the dudes were playing roles. Like she is too, right? Like she's playing like an assertive person who like doesn't like take the guy's shit or whatever, and supposedly the only thing she cares about is like getting the documentary and like whatever, and so people are like, oh, stupid bitch or whatever. But like, for example, they're like getting all their equipment on and stuff, and their stuff is heavy, right? Like physically heavy to be walking around with. And one of the guys who's like recording, which is Josh, is like, I could help you, but I'd rather just stand here and record. Okay, asshole.
Same.
Sure. But Heather's the worst person in this movie? Okay. So the first thing that the group is going to do is go to Coffin Rock. They talk about, you know, the disemboweling and all that stuff that I just talked about. They spend the night. I had a theory, like, I watch this movie, I don't know, once every couple of years. I have seen Book of Shadows once, on Sci-Fi probably, years and years ago. And then I watched the third one when it first came out, and just once. So watching it today was like my second time. And I had a theory that they actually like what's the word? Not justify.
Suck.
They confirm. They confirm for me in the third movie, which is that once this movie like continues, right? And we see this really, really in the second movie a lot too. Sound is weird in the forest. I mean, it always is, but then there's also like a weird time thing going on. And my theory was like once you fell asleep, because there's a lot of people that talk about like sleeping being part of like a liminal space where you're like, that's why people can like astral project and like whatever, I don't know. But I was like, oh, it's like once they go to sleep and then they wake up, they're like trapped in the time loop that is the woods. And so like you can go into the woods, but as long as you don't fall asleep, like you're okay. And then they confirmed that in the third one. And I was like, hell yeah, I am so smart.
I'm safe.
I mean, me too, because I'm not sleeping in them woods. Never, ever. Okay, so they go to sleep. The next morning, Josh kind of jokingly was like, oh man, did you hear those noises last night? I heard like a cackling. And I was like, okay. Sure.
Why would you not leave immediately?
Well, it's too late. They're already stuck. But also, I feel like a cackling is like so on the nose about like I don't know. Also, who was the I want to know who was cackling. We don't hear it, okay? They don't whatever. They're lost already, right? Like it's day 2, they're already lost. This is when they find their first cairn, aka pile of rocks, and they're like, okay, weird. That night they are awakened by noises, and Heather is just like, okay, this is not great. I will say that like I think that sound for me is really, really important in movies, and like watching the pitch black, like they have like shitty recorders, right? It's like 1999 or whatever, so you can't really see anything, and all you can hear is just like the crackling and the yelling and stuff. And I was like, I am already done. Like, there's just no way I could do this. It's so scary. So they're basically like, okay, that's kind of sus. Like, I don't like the noises, whatever. The next day, that's when they decide, like, we're going to try and go back to the car. And they realized for sure that they're lost. Mike is freaking out. At night, there's more noises. The noises have woken them at 3 a.m., which, as you may or may not know, is the witching hour. That's spooky. In the morning, they wake up and there are 3 cairns in front of their tents. Almost as if they're headstones, one for each of them. Heather realizes that the map is missing. Josh is pissed about it. They go on and on. This is the point of the movie where they're mostly just like arguing with each other and like yelling at each other. And Mike eventually confesses that he kicked the map into the creek because he's like, well, we were lost anyway. And Heather is like adamant that she knew where they were. And he's just like, no, I kicked it in the river.
Smart.
Okay, and again, I want to reiterate, Heather is the worst person in this movie. I don't know.
I don't know. You're already lost. We need that. You don't need a map. You're lost. Who cares?
Yeah, Mike was raising points,
I will say, though, that Josh really, really screams at and berates Heather because he thinks that she's misplaced the map. And Mike is just like, tee-hee, I kicked it in the river. And Josh was like, oh, well. And I was like, okay, fuck you, bro. That night, they hear... Oh, okay. This is like the night where the shit actually really starts going down, right? They wake up, there's the stick figures hanging in the trees, which, again, the stick figures... I have a lot of really good things to say about Blair Witch, but I agree. I think the stick figures are like the craziest thing because, like, if I saw that, I'm pooping my pants immediately. Like, there's just no way. They hear the noises again, which mostly sounds like branches cracking and creaking, and then there's like screaming sometimes, and they basically start like running. And this is the scene where they're running through the darkness and Heather is screaming like, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? We don't actually see it, but they basically just had somebody like running around and like a white robe or something. So they actually saw something and they're reacting to it, but we don't, because it's like not part of the movie for us. You know what I mean? And she really sounds scared. Like, I don't know how I don't know if I could be doing this. They run away from the campsite. When it's light, finally, they go back to the campsite and see that it has been totally trashed. Josh's shit is like ripped open and everywhere, and there's some kind of like weird goo on his backpack that he touches.
Pass.
Gross. Yeah. This is where they start realizing that they're going in circles, because they come back around to this like, there's a scene where they have to cross a river and they have to like go over these logs that are laying over it, and Heather makes like a really big deal over having to do this because, like, again, their shit is heavy. And they circle back around to this and they're like freaking out, obviously, because they've gone in circles, and Josh again is just screaming at Heather.
I think
but the next
that's one of the more, I think, effective parts, is that they were smart enough to like film that log a couple times, so that like
Right.
every time you see it, you just realize like how lost or whatever trapped they are. And I think that's one of the more like effective things in the movie as far as like building the tension throughout, is just seeing that same fucking log over and over again.
Yeah, it is also because like they have the conversation where they're like, okay, because like this is like a common thought, right? We're just gonna walk in one direction and eventually we'll
eventually
hit
you'll hit
something. We'll hit a
something.
road, whatever. And so the fact that they're visually seeming to go in circles, like, how is that possible? But then like you have to blame somebody, right? So like, yeah,
They blame a woman.
of course, duh. The next morning, Josh has disappeared, right? And they're like, okay, not great. That night,
I disagree, because he did not seem helpful.
no, he was kind of the biggest asshole, to be honest. Mike in the beginning kind of seemed like he was gonna be, but Josh really took the cake. So they like look for him, but I mean, like, what can they do? You know, they're still lost. And so that night, when they're in their tent, they hear Josh yelling in the distance. I hate it so much. Like,
Yeah, it's
the
that is another thing I think is like effective in like the tension building, especially because, like I said, like the way they did is they just set up speakers or whatever, but they're in like different spots, so like you can hear it coming from like the different directions.
Yeah. And there's multiple times where they comment like the sound is coming from
Yeah,
everywhere. No, no, thank you. Josh is also, he's not just like, hey guys, he's like like screaming in pain, asking for help, which is like terrible. Um, but they can't do anything. Like, they can't figure out where he is or where it's coming from, right? The next morning, there is a bundle of sticks in front of Heather's tent. And she's like, okay, don't love that. I'm gonna just move it over to the side a little bit. And eventually, without telling Mike, she does open the bundle of sticks. And inside is a bloody piece of Josh's flannel with like bloody hair and teeth and like pulp in it, which I remember as a child scared me a lot because I was like, what is happening to this guy? Like, what is this?
boy,
Was that his tongue?
doesn't have
I
any
don't
teeth.
know.
We know that.
And now he has no teeth. And so then in Heather's mind, she's also thinking like, oh my God, was me hearing him last night, like yelling and stuff, like this was happening to him, you know? So Heather is extremely freaked out. She doesn't tell Mike about what she saw. She's just like, yeah, well, I'm very tired and stuff, so I'm fine though. And she's like literally looks like she's about to have a breakdown.
What if the
I mean,
thing that broke
rightfully
her
so.
was people not labeling their personal food items properly?
Who weren't stored
I'm
correctly.
so scared. Amazing reference. Um, this is now like the infamous scene we get of Heather holding the camera right in front of her face and like crying and apologizing to the camera, saying that this is all her fault because it was her project. And she's like, I'm so sorry, Mom and Dad, I love you. That's like the last thing that she says on the tape, right? She hears screaming. There's just like screaming all the time, which I really can't stand, right? And so she goes towards it, and this is when they find the abandoned house. and they go inside and look around. Again, it's nighttime, right? So it's not great. I do still think that, like, obviously part of the point of like doing it at night and having these like cameras that they were using at the time kind of like adds a level of grayscale, distortion, whatever. So like you kind of have to really like squint when you're watching it to see what's going on, and I think that really helps build the tension because you don't really know is something going to jump out or like what's going on, and I think it looks really good. And that is part of one of the only problems that I really have with Blair Witch 2016 is that the technology at this point is too good, and you don't really get a lot of like, there's like no confusion as to what you're seeing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, my biggest issue with that newer one is that it's too slick. Like, and that's kind of like a big thing I have with a lot of modern or like more recent like found footage stuff is like the thing that works well in this is that it's like everything just kind of looks shitty because it's just like a not new, but like, you know, it's like a 90s video recorder, so like everything is very grainy, and it's like it makes it feel more realistic, where like I watch Blair Witch and I'm like, well, you could have never fooled me into thinking this was like a real thing.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Yeah, so they're in Rustin Parr's house. They're looking around. They're hearing Josh yelling, but they can't like really figure out where he is. They go upstairs. We see some bloody handprints on the wall, which is the thing that kind of like signifies that in the third movie they are in the same house, because you get very clear shots of the walls with like the little kids' bloody handprints on it, and like Nathan was saying, the runes and whatnot. Basically Mike, the only thing Mike wants to do is find Josh, right? So when he hears Josh yelling, Mike's like, oh, he's downstairs. He like fucking takes off and leaves Heather behind. And this scene to me is the like obviously it is the climax of the movie, but it was so effective to me because we're seeing like essentially in this view, it's Mike's camera, and he's like bolting down the stairs to get into the basement, and you can hear Heather in the background screaming Mike, Mike, like as loud and as desperate as possible, and he's, you know, like running away from her, but it's so loud that you could hear it in the entire house. Like, I thought it was done so well. Obviously, you know, you feel the emotions of her because she's scared. This house is freaky, right? So, you know, he leaves or whatever. Mike's POV, basically, he runs downstairs. You can hear her screaming. His camera, there's like a thunk, and his camera falls to the ground. You can still hear Heather, like, calling for him. She comes downstairs and sees Mike standing in the corner. And, which, you know, is the part I looked away from as a kid. I still think it's pretty creepy, because it's like, again, the darkness of the basement. He's a grown man. Like, why is he standing in a fucking corner? Like, something about somebody standing in a corner is like inherently creepy to me, like with their backs to you. Like, I just don't like it. So it is still creepy, I think. And she's like, what the fuck's going on? But then she is somehow there's a sound of her being like struck or something, and her camera hits the ground, and it just kind of like records a little bit until it cuts off.
So
and then they're saying,
we all agree that Josh is the Blair Witch, right?
Yeah.
He was the Blair Witch along the way.
The whole time.
That's my assumption of what this ending means.
Maybe he were. So yeah, that is just the Blair Witch Project. There it is.
Pass. We gotta talk about the real good one.
Yeah, so here we go. New Metal Dream, that is Book of Shadows Blair Witch 2 from 2000. You know, they kind of did this thing where once Blair Witch was like such a success, they're like, we got to get on this. We got to keep doing this stuff. We got to keep people into
Time
it.
for sequels.
What if we did the exact opposite of what everyone liked about the first one? They'll clearly love that.
What if we...
I mean, it got a third movie, didn't it?
Barely.
So, in the beginning
and a series of young adult novels.
Yeah.
And a comic spinoff.
You cannot discount the young adult novels, okay? I'm telling you. Yeah, so like we kind of talked about in the beginning, Joe Berlinger is the director of this now, and he is a
I thought you were gonna
documentarian,
say it was frantic,
documentarian.
tick, 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 tick.
He did also direct that cinematic movie that had Zac Efron playing Ted Bundy, which is also another weird choice because it's like, but at least that was like a something that documentaries are based off of. I don't know. It's just like it is a
Well,
very weird
yeah, most
situation.
most of his career outside of like this and like the Metallica documentary is mostly true crime
Right.
documentary. So like that makes sense. It's baffling to me that this is a movie he made.
Yeah, and like we said, he hated it. So before this movie came out, they aired another special on TV called Shadow of the Blair Witch, which aired on Sci-Fi. I watched a version that somebody uploaded to YouTube that still had the original commercials, and it was
I love it
delightful.
when I watch something
Um,
like that and the commercials are still intact because commercials during the
yeah,
'90s were fucking insane.
I also had some blasts from the past, but this also aired in October, so there was like Halloween adjacent commercials, so it was great. You can obviously if you just like Google it, it'll come up. You can watch it. This was basically a true crime style documentary. It looked very. I think that this was more, even though I know it's fake, this was more convincing to me as a like to be a real documentary than Curse of the Blair Witch was. It's really just talking about Jeff Patterson, who is the main character of Book of Shadows, and how he is, and they showed like a mugshot of like a fake, like not the guy, not the actor in the movie, just some like random dude being like, this was Jeff Peterson. He's being suspected of like killing people of this like mass murder, and we're not saying how many murders there are. And so it's essentially like they're trying to say Blair Book of Shadows is based off of this guy in real life. So they're showing us basically how much of a freak this guy was growing up. He did all kinds of stuff. One time he stalked and kidnapped a baby, essentially. And so this is
How do you
where it get.
stalk a baby?
I don't know because
Slowly
then
following its stroller.
yeah, that's right. Like, aren't you just like? Anyways, the thing that is so crazy to me about the Blair Witch is that like the lore behind it again like goes so much deeper than the movies that if you didn't watch this supplemental random thing that they showed on TV, there's stuff in Book of Shadows that will make no sense to you because you have no context. So essentially what they're saying, they're basically like they have all these other experts on because it is a true crime documentary, not the historical folklore documentary that the other thing is, right? So they're like, oh yeah, there's different kinds of mass murderers. This is what I was talking about where they mentioned Charles Manson. They also mentioned Nazis and like all of this like real world stuff. And then they're like, yeah, here's Jeff Patterson. This guy's a freak. And so Book of Shadows does this really weird thing where like they're showing us so many different timelines happening at the same time in the movie because it's like the main story, which is that Jeff Patterson, whatever the fuck, is a tour guide. He sells Blair Witch merch, and he's taking these people on a tour. So as the movie progresses, there's like stuff that's happening. The people start freaking out. They're showing us like spliced in images of like some kind of brutal murder happening. They're also showing us like the characters being interrogated, and they're also showing us all of these crazy scenes of Jeff in like a mental health facility, like slamming himself into the padded walls and foaming at the mouth and his head shaved and like all of this shit. And if you're just straight watching the movie, him being in like the health facility makes no sense with where the movie ends in the timeline, because the movie ends with them being interrogated by the police, right? So you're like, why the fuck is there all this stuff of him being like whatever? And it's because it's what happened to him before the movie, which is when he stalked and kidnapped that baby, and then after that he was sent to the mental health facility. So the stuff that we're seeing around that happened before the movie. And so that's insane, right?
That sounds like a mistake.
It's
Like,
crazy.
why,
That's what I'm saying.
why
Like,
release this
that's
thing that
why.
no one's gonna be able to see? Like, God, that just makes everything else about this movie even more fucking baffling.
So that's why I feel like if you look at the Blair Witch as like a whole franchise, all of the stuff together, it's like, oh man, this is crazy. This is awesome. This is like so much
I don't know if awesome
world
is the
building
word I
or
would have used.
whatever. However, if you're taking the movies individually, it is a baffling choice. If you want somebody, a random person, to just like stand alone watch your movie and have any of it make sense. And that's why it rules.
So, with Book of Shadows, the thing that I think, like, again, this movie is garbage, but it's garbage in like a fun way that, like we've said, is like
Yeah.
some of those like early 2000s heavily new metal soundtrack movies are.
Amazing, yes.
Like, uh, for me, like watching it, I was like the thing that I think I hated the most in it is the chopped up timeline of things, where you keep seeing
Hmm.
the flashbacks and stuff. And when I was looking at Letterboxd on it, Justin DeClue had reviewed it that Pierce Dirks, who is somebody that like works with Steven Kostanski a lot, like I think he was like one of the producers on that In a Violent Nature movie, and I think he's
Okay.
done some stuff with like Kostanski, but he had re-edited Book of Shadows into a chronological timeline where you don't get any of the flashbacks to what has happened at the end throughout the movie, and it all just slowly builds. And I think I would enjoy that more than the way this movie is put together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, this
Like,
the timeline of what's happening in the movie is obviously a nightmare, and I think that the reason they did it is because of like the time loop
well,
situation that the Blair Witch is
I was
in.
gonna say
But I
I
think,
feel like they mostly do it to put in that like garbage like effect that they use in the Saw movies a lot, of like this sped up camera, like
Super
people
choppy.
just like
Like,
shaking their heads back and forth so it looks all weird and fucked up, and like
yeah,
it feels like they wanted to like use like effects like that because it was so much a part of like every movie at the time. And like
sure.
I don't know, like it's whatever. Like I still like I think it's like works fine for the movie, but I think for me personally, I think I would have liked it more if like you built to all of that shit happening instead of seeing bits and pieces of it throughout.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, they didn't necessarily need to do it the way that they did, and I don't feel like they needed to include the stuff with Jeff in the mental health facility. That just like doesn't add anything to the movie at all. I think once the parts that they're chopping that they're splicing in that are like the murders, I don't mind those scenes, and like I understand. I think they did it because it's like the characters like, well, let's just talk about the movie. Like I again wrote just like the outward notes of it because I feel like this movie is definitely a mess. I feel like the new metal score is really great. I feel like
The
Book of Shadows is actually the kind of movie that we would cover because it is a piece of shit, but compliment like it's great
it like
because of that.
I
Like,
want to talk about soundtrack real quick.
okay, go ahead.
It
yeah.
like the at the drive-in song in the credits is insane. It
Insane.
does not fit whatsoever.
Fucking feel good hit of the summer by Queens of the Stone Age.
Like
Amazing.
I feel like the only song that fits is fucking Marilyn Manson in the opening credits. Like
A hundred
the
percent.
goth girl rocking out to POD in the van.
Amazing.
Makes
Amazing.
She's a Christian
no
goth girl.
sense.
Yeah.
Like,
I loved
how
it.
do you not just put like fucking, I don't know, 9 Inch Nails or fucking whatever big quote
Yeah,
unquote goth artist, mainstream artist was like
it
happening at the time?
it is a weirder collection of songs than we would typically be like, yeah, this is a great new metal like
It's
soundtrack or whatever.
uh,
It's
when
strange.
she is driving that van, I was losing my mind. I was like, why the fuck is she listening to POD?
Well, I mean, technically, it is Jeff's van. Maybe he's a POD fan.
Come on.
He felt
Just
so
his CD in
alive.
there.
Do you know what I
Yeah, I guess
mean?
that would
Yeah,
make sense, but it's like I feel like I would just turn the radio off.
sure. Yeah. Okay, so the movie, because I will say, like, this movie is kind of a mess, but it is good. Like, it does stuff that I think is redeeming. And there's a point that one of the character makes in it that I think is like very, like, I don't want to say profound, obviously, but it kind of like it frames what's happening in every single one of the movies so perfectly. So I feel like you need this
do,
movie to be a part of it, even though the way that they chose to do the movie was like
do,
extremely baffling,
do
obviously.
either of you think anyone in this movie is a good actor? In this movie specifically?
Uh, what's his name? Not the main guy. The guy who hates his pregnant wife. He's at least trying. I wouldn't say he's good, but he's kind of
I guess,
trying.
like,
I do like the pregnant wife. I think she does a really good
I
job
was gonna
towards
say,
the
I
end
think
when
the
yeah.
scene where they hang her, she's relatively good at.
Yeah.
Everyone else in this is
Yeah, I
the
think she's great.
most 2000s, like, CW drama actor
Hey.
nonsense. Also, Kim Director, and a good movie after this called Death Rider and the House of Vampires.
Oh
Hell
no.
yeah.
Should have watched that again.
Yeah, so this is the movie where they take the people's names and they use
The,
their first name, but then they make them have a second name that kind of sort of rhymes with their actual last name, which was like
it's
really
so
baffling.
funny because it's not like they were doing a realistic movie where they needed to like somewhat like portray realism. This is just a movie.
Yeah, and like I think
Kim
that this
Director
would
is
be
now
a
Kim
cute,
Diamond.
yeah, I think this would be like a cute little nod to the first one if the legal shit didn't go down the way that it did
Just
for the original ones. You know what I
uh,
mean? Like there just was, it's just in poor taste, I feel.
again, I
I
think.
I
Oh, go
think
ahead, kid.
I was gonna say when you're a terrible actor, it's got to be so much easier to act when everyone's calling you your real
Yeah.
first name. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, and I think that
Yeah.
like that works well in portraying like the realism or whatever of the first one. Like in this, it's just a fucking baffling choice that like was just so unnecessary.
Yeah, definitely.
God damn, there was something I was gonna ask and I don't remember
Um,
what it was. Oh
I don't
well,
know.
it might come to
See
me.
if it comes to you. So this movie starts with
Real quick,
on screen.
Marilyn
I remember
Manson.
what it was. I like
Okay.
if this movie had been a faux documentary about like because when you read the description, it's just like young adults become fascinated by the events of the missing filmmakers. And so like
Hmm.
if it was just like I guess technically people would probably be like, well, this is just like a different version of what happened in the first one. But if it was like a faux documentary put together of these people that go to like this town that is now like being overrun with like tourists and shit because of the popularity of the first movie, where like you get a bit of like all of that shit at the beginning where like some people embrace it and other people in the town are like, get the fuck out of here.
Hmm.
And like it turns out that like they go and they're trying to film this documentary about all this stuff and then Blair Witch shit happens. Like perfect. That would have been like a good idea for a sequel, especially hiring this dude who predominantly makes documentaries. And I think it would have been
Yeah.
like more interesting. You could play with the found footage aspects a little differently in like new ways. And I feel like that would have been like a way more interesting take on this instead of like, hey, what if we just made an actual movie?
Yeah,
Or
as
hear me
I'll
out.
say, as much as like I
Yeah.
do think this is like a very stupid fun movie. Like I just think if you're trying to like make something in the I don't know. It's just fucking insane to me that they went with like a fucking narrative feature for this. Anyway, go ahead, kid.
Uh, put Metallica in it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that should have been
Yeah.
the entire soundtrack.
It doesn't need a story. You just have Metallica, and they're like, "We're gonna go rock in the woods," throwing up devil horns, and
Imagine if they did like the fucking Jonah Hex, it's like soundtrack Mastodon thing, but it was just Metallica instead. Especially Saint Anger.
all
era.
the fucking Saint Anger B sides.
It was just fucking like in the middle of the woods, and it's just Lars screaming "fuck." Like,
They could have Lars's dad.
Yeah.
Lars's dad is the Blair
like
Witch.
Dave Mustaine crying at the end.
Yeah, he's in the corner
You
crying.
replace Heather in the first one, which is Dave Mustaine.
I am so scared. I'm gonna get kicked out.
All right. Anyway,
Sorry, Katie.
Yeah, this actually should have just been a music video.
I mean,
I don't really know
it
what
basically
they-
is. It's got all of the
Honestly.
same shitty effects that every fucking new metal music video had at the time.
I do agree with you though. I feel like they should have done it like because the movie does kind of start out with that documentary style thing again, and it would have been a perfect reason for there to be filming and stuff because the guy is like a tourist, so he's gonna like take people on the tour. And,
yeah,
like, obviously they would also be recording, so
I
like
think
yeah, I
you
don't
could
know.
even do essentially still the same sort of like events that happen in
You
this.
can.
Like, if
I
you
think
think
it
about,
worked for a second movie.
yeah, I think if like I even think just going to like the weird like asylum footage that like probably would look better and feel more apropos if it was filmed in that like documentary like hidden camera style footage or something
Yeah.
instead of this weird
Yeah,
shaky
because
cam
and
fucking
and
tilted
instead
camera
it's like
nonsense.
the thing that's like okay, so I will say let's just, set aside the fact that it should still be like documentary style, okay? It's not. That's not what this is. I will say they do still use that kind of thing where it's like, so the movie starts and it says the following is a reenactment of events that occurred after the release of the Blair Witch Project. So they're trying to say to us, hey, these events actually happened. We don't
We just
actually
made a movie about it.
Yeah, we don't have the footage like we did in the Blair Witch Project. So basically what we're going to do is reenact in the weirdest way possible what happened. So what you're watching isn't factually what happened, but it's based off of something that did happen. You know what? Fine. Weird, but okay. And so, like it basically starts by showing us TV reports about like in this world that we're watching, the Blair Witch Project exists and it's real, and there's people that are, well, it's up for debate. Some people are like, yeah, hell yeah, it's real, and some people are like, no, this is just
movie
fake, whatever.
should have been Kurt Loder and Conan O'Brien going into the woods together.
Oh my god, yes. Has he not done one?
What?
Like a Blair Witch parody?
Conan? Probably. I feel
Yeah.
like there had to have been something on his show around the time.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
sure.
I would love to see that. So yeah, so like there's also like footage of Jeff, like somebody is like recording him. He's like, "Hey, I've got well, yeah, this shit's real, whatever." And so that's why it's kind of jarring going in because it immediately switches to being just like a regularly shot cinematic movie, right? And so that's like kind of weird. But throughout the movie, like they are using video cameras and stuff. And then a large part of the movie is told via surveillance cameras that are in Jeff's weird fucking factory woods compound that he lives in. And the thing that I think is really actually, if we're taking the movie as it already is and not saying it would have been better if this, that, or the other, the thing that I think is really cool about what they did is that once the people are in Jeff's house, they're losing their shit, right? Because they're getting Blair Witched. They can't trust, like, you know, Jeff thinks he sees Kim eating an owl. She's only eating chicken. Sometimes, like, and there's like all kinds of crazy shit happening, right? But throughout this part of the movie, they're showing us surveillance, and everything that's happening on their surveillance is actually the stuff that's really happening in real life. But the characters are like so far gone that they're just confused by what they're seeing. But like to us, the viewer, when we're seeing the surveillance camera stuff, that's what's actually going on, and the characters don't know that. What I think is extremely cool if you're going to be doing this style of movie. So, yeah, like I said, splice of stuff of Jeff being in like the mental health facility, which is like really over the top and like not necessary and, like I said, stupid. And so Jeff has been selling merch, BlairWitchMerch.com. He's selling stickmen that he goes out and gets the sticks from the woods or whatever. He's got t-shirts. He's got clumps of dirt from Rustin Parr's house. Great. I do love in this movie too, in the beginning, they're recording people in the town talking about like the tourists, and there's that one lady that's like, then people came here asking me for rocks for my yard, and I was like, no, I don't really want to do that. But then they just kept coming and asking for rocks, so I've been selling rocks, but you know, it costs more to ship rocks than the rocks cost. And it's just like this long interview with this woman, and I loved her so much.
She made the entire third movie should have just been about her.
The rock lady, I agree.
Imagine how much it costs to ship a rock now.
I can't even.
Especially from another country.
Yeah.
Great here, folks.
Tariffed.
Tariffed. The rock tariffs are real high nowadays. So Jeff has started to do it is kind of hard to say. Blair Witch tours, where he's going to take people who are into the Blair Witch into the woods to see sights, Coffin Rock, Rustin Parr's House Foundation, you know, the works. He's got 3 people. One of them is Erica, who is just some random Wiccan girl who is basically like out to kind of dispel the bad publicity that Wiccans get, because they're trying to say, you know, that Ellie Kedward was a witch and she was terrible. Yeah, she's not great.
She straight up hits him with, my culture is not your costume.
Like, yes. Then there is a married couple who are working on a book. Their names are Tristan and Steven. I am assuming that their book was going to be called Book of Shadows, and that's why it's called Book of Shadows Blair Witch 2, but nobody says that to my knowledge, and so that's just me inferring. I don't even know. And then they go to pick up the 4th member, which is the goth girl named Kim. This is the first time, if you notice, when they go into the cemetery that actually exists there, you see that she is laying on a grave, and the gravestone says Treacle. This is Eileen Treacle, who is the little girl who drowned in the water. I have heard, so I watched Book of Shadows on streaming, and I have heard that in the original DVD versions of this, it's one of those movies where there's shit hidden in the picture everywhere, like tons and tons of shit. And I listened to like a podcast over just about some of the stuff that's hidden in it, but of course, like and then they said if you're watching it on streaming, you can't see any of it, and I would be really interested to know if that's actually true.
I'm sure there's
that's
probably just like YouTube breakdowns or whatever you could watch.
Yeah. So there's like layer upon layer, whatever. But anyway, she's laying on the tombstone that says Treacle. Okay, so they all get in Jeff's van. He's driving along. He's like, "Tee-hee, this is my first tour," and they're like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Like, you have all of these reviews." And he's like, "No, man, that's for my web store. People are giving me good reviews on my merch, you know."
You fucking fool.
Literally. And so they go into the woods, they see Rustin Parr's like foundation or whatever, it's just like ruins or whatever, and now there's also like a huge evil tree growing out of the middle of it, which is really interesting because the trees are like a huge part of these movies, specifically in the third one, that I think it's really interesting because I feel like if you're not paying attention, like you don't even think about trees. Do you know what I'm saying?
Trees a lot.
Never thought about a tree in my life.
What about
Like
Lord of the
the
Rings?
stickmen, Lord of the Trees.
No, I skip the ints.
Wow.
They're not real.
You heard it here, folks. Kit is a tree hater. He doesn't like oxygen. He doesn't like greenery.
Personally, I think we should get rid of all of nature.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. You think about the tree, like the first one where they kept coming to that stream where that stump was over it, and you know how Nathan was saying, like, oh, they kept showing that. That's like a huge landmarker. The stickmen literally are made out of sticks, you know, that come from trees, but also they're hanging up in the trees. This, we have this huge... In case you guys didn't know, sticks actually come from trees. So
There's sea sticks.
Yeah, and bushes have sticks.
No.
Bushes are kind of like baby trees.
That's true, yeah. They're just short trees. They're short kings,
Yeah.
if you will.
They're the short kings of the tree world.
That's right, exactly. And so there's like this huge tree in the middle, like growing up, like a huge fucking tree. And as you know, it takes a very long time for trees to grow. And Jeff's like, that's weird. I've never seen that tree before. And they're like, okay, weirdo.
Seems like you're bad at this fucking
Freak.
tourism thing, then.
Yeah. No one believes you, moron.
Yeah. So Erica says she wants to commune with Ellie Kedward. And basically she's like, oh, she was a witch and I want her to be my mentor in magic. And I was like, okay. Yeah, not really.
The Gathering?
Yeah.
All right, now
yes.
we're talking.
Yes, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
She brought her deck.
Gonna teach her how to play
The
standard.
big tree just starts throwing out some fucking trading cards.
Basically, there's like this whole conversation between Erica and Kim about how they're commiserating over being judged because of their looks. Erica, to me, who is the proclaimed Wiccan, looks kind of more like what you would associate with like a granola or like a hippie type person. Kim is like full goth. She's got like the black all the way up to her eyebrows and like black lipstick and all black clothing, black hair, whatever. So they're basically just talking about like people think we're evil because we like horror movies and we like the Blair Witch and we wear all black, etc., etc. And Tristan says something, which is the thing that I found to be kind of the overarching theme of all the movies, which she says perception is reality.
Damn, deep.
Damn, girl. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because what the other person perceives, that is their reality. So you saying, I'm not evil, I'm not whatever, like they don't care because they see you and they perceive you that way. So it's true to them. That's a fucking Blair Witch, baby. I was like, girl, okay. So they're just like hanging out, chilling, and another tour group shows up and they all start beefing. I'm not really sure why. Like, I can understand why Jeff and the other tour guide were kind of like being aggro because he's like, I was told you I had a time slot that I was going to be here with my people. You can't be here. But Jeff's tour group fucking goes off on this guy too. And I was just like, I think the one thing that not the one, but one of the things that bothers me about this movie is that this group of random strangers gets together and then all of a sudden they're like BFFs, like immediately from the get-go. And I'm like, I just like don't know if their chemistry would be like this necessarily.
I feel like no one in this movie liked each other.
Well, they like immediately all ganged up together against this other tour group who they also do not know. And that just
I assume it's racism.
Oh, you're right. The other tour group were like tourists.
It's like an Asian family.
Yeah, and somebody from Germany. You're right. It is racism.
What if the fucking thing that aired on Sci-Fi was solely about the beef between these two tour groups?
I'm into that.
It's actually a decades old beef. Like,
yeah, so basically it's like a Japanese couple and a girl who is like speaking German to the tour guide or whatever. Good catch. And Steven, like, he's the guy who's writing the book, right? Offhandedly mentions what happened at Coffin Rock or whatever, and the other people are like, okay, oh, that's so much more interesting. You know, that's where like the embalments happened. And so they're like, oh, that's like more interesting. Let's just go there instead. So that tour group leaves, right? Um, there's this whole fucking scene where like the group is just like smoking and drinking and like hoo-hawing and yee-hawing around the fire and whatnot. But they do the thing that you're not supposed to do, which is that they fall asleep out there and they wake up and they're Blair Witch, baby. They wake up, there's what appears to be ash coming from the down from the sky. It looks pretty cool. Jeff's camera is also all broken up to shit or whatever. And once they get up and are like looking around, they realize that the ash that's falling from the sky is actually the book that couple is working on. All of their research, all of their interviews, everything is just shredded, and they're like, oh my fucking god. Jeff's camera's broken, and also his tapes are missing, and there's like this weird fucking thing. Again, I'm not really sure like why this part is in the movie, where Kim is like, this is really weird, but I think I can intuit. I just have a feeling that your tapes are actually in that wall. And so Jeff goes over and like disturbs this wall and is like, oh yeah, you're right.
Damn, keep her around.
And like,
They're right about her being a psychic.
And like, the only thing that I can assume that it's a nod to is that there's some other, it might have been the dossier or something else. There's some other like external Blair Witch stuff talking about how the tapes were found, like Heather, Josh, and Mike's tapes were found in this wall that like was so old that there's like no way that they could have been in there without the wall being disturbed or whatever. So it's like a weird time loop type thing or whatever. And it was found by excavationists. Because there's like stuff saying that when they, at the end of Blair Witch Project, go into Rustin Parr's house, that's actually not possible because his house had burnt down and there's just ruins there now, which is like the ruins that we're seeing. And so like obviously that goes more into like the time loop thing. So like I assume that's what they're referencing, but I don't know, it just felt so weird to me.
Do you think about how unhinged the idea of the first movie is, of people being like, we found this footage and edited it together and then we're going to release it into major movie theaters? So these people's like last moments.
Yeah, final days.
Yeah, because like...
It's such a crazy idea to try to convince people you were actually doing.
I know, yeah. And like, because I think, I'm trying to also remember how much footage they shot in the first movie. It was like a lot that they had to then scrape down into the movie, and it took like weeks or whatever. So I couldn't imagine doing that for people. If in this real life situation, I couldn't imagine you doing that for people you don't know. You know,
do you think
like, that's
the
weird.
witch edited this footage together?
Yeah, I think she did. I think, yeah.
Pretty good. They should hire her in Hollywood.
You're right. Yeah. She also added in like the CG and stuff, because she like had, technology from the future. That's
I like the idea that the witch
good.
made this second movie.
I think she did.
She's trying to cash in on her popularity from the first.
I mean,
That's
smart.
right. Well, it seems to me that they're probably using her name. Like, I didn't never hear that she signed a contract, so they're just using
She
her
also
name
didn't
for
get
free.
paid.
Yeah, she's just out in these streets and they're slandering her name around, so she needs a piece of the pie.
So funny if like one of the spoof things was just like a lawsuit about the Blair Witch suing the people making this movie.
I'd watch it. What if it was like a Harvey Birdman episode?
Oh man,
that's the spin-off we needed. Scooby-Doo Project was pretty good too, but yeah, so they find the tapes and they're like, oh my god, that's so weird, right? Okay, so there's like this whole thing with Tristan being pregnant and she doesn't really want to be, and there's like all this contention between her and Steven because like he wants the baby but she doesn't. And she basically has a dream that night of having a miscarriage in the water, and then she actually does in real life, and she's losing a lot of blood, so they rush her to the hospital. And This is the part that I'm like, why is this in here? This is like very strange to me. They rush her to the hospital, and in the hospital, like while she's laying there, like recovering, she sees like the ghost of Eileen Treacle, which is the girl who drowned in the river. And she like talks to her, and I'm like, what is going on with this?
Good question.
It's very weird. Like I don't know. Someone needs to explain that to me. So they released her from the hospital, and this is when Jeff brings them all back to his old, like, abandoned factory house. And I will tell you that, like, the only things that I remembered from this movie from originally watching it when it came out was Kim laying on that grave in the beginning, because, of course, I probably thought she was so cool. And then them walking across this bridge into this guy's fucking house. I don't know why I specifically remember the bridge, but those were the only things I remembered about the movie. So that was weird.
The bridge does play like a big part.
Yeah, and it's also freaky. So he lives in this like abandoned factory that used to make brooms. Haha. Blair Witch, right? And inside the house, they're basically like showing all of Jeff's Blair Witch merch, which, like I said, it's mostly like sticks and mud and rocks and shit. Jeff, Erica, and Kim start to watch the tapes to try and figure out what happened, because they're also realizing that they have some time loss from that night, right? And they're thinking the other tour group came back and ripped up all the fucking research and shit, and like, but why would they do that? So they're gonna watch the tapes to like see if they caught them doing that, okay? Kim also has some weird rash. Okay.
Yeah, that's what you get for being in the woods.
Yeah, and again, like this entire time too, they're like getting flashes of like embalments and shit and like all that kind of stuff the whole time, but you know, they don't, whatever.
Who isn't constantly having that though?
I mean, totally. Now, this like next section of the movie is basically people thinking that they see things that aren't actually there, and like hallucinations. So like they hear Tristan calling for Steven, but when he goes in there, she's sound asleep. She wasn't calling him. He thinks that he sees Eileen Treacle's ghost. They hear crying randomly outside. And then there's like this weird scene where like Steven and Erica start making out with each other. And then she like claws his fucking stomach open, which was pretty cool. But then all of a sudden it didn't happen, and they're sitting on like opposite sides of the table, like it wasn't real or whatever. So there's just like all of this like random messy shit happening with them. Then they see a shot on one of the tapes of Erica basically like dancing around naked, and she like freaks out because she doesn't remember doing that. And I'm like, well, kind of seems like something you would do, but it's fine. She's like really freaked out about it, right? So she's like going to do some kind of like witch stuff. And
I have so many questions about this like weird fucking mantra shit she's doing, because this does not seem
I don't know. And she's also calling to Persephone, which is like Hades' wife.
I feel like no one making this movie knows what a Wiccan is.
I don't know. It's strange. This is when they start realizing that the rashes that they had are actually turning into runes that are being carved in their skin. Just like
bad.
The coffin rock people. Yeah, and they're just kind of like, we were out in the woods. And I'm like, no.
Clearly, this is just weird poison ivy.
No.
This is why I don't go to the woods.
Exactly. The sticks are poking you and carving runes in you and shit. It's not great.
Yeah.
You gotta get that rune vaccine before you go out in the woods.
That's right.
Big trees popping up all over the place and then disappearing.
That's right. You gotta be careful about them trees. That's right.
Yeah.
The trees,
all your tapes get hidden in rocks.
Oh my god, that makes so much sense. The trees don't like paper because it's made out of their dead bodies, so they're ripping it up.
I've learned anything from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. That's true.
Yeah. Wow. This has been such an insightful conversation. I'm so glad we're having it on our anniversary.
Finally, for getting to the bottom of this movie. Someone's finally doing it.
Really figuring out life's answers. So they have runes carved into them stuff. Erica is basically just like, guys, we brought something back with us. This isn't great. It's not great. There's this like random scene where Kim goes to buy beer, and it's like a whole thing because the lady working at the counter like doesn't want to sell her the beer, and she's like, fucking sell it to me or whatever, and then she leaves. And when she gets back, she basically like had wrecked the van or whatever, and when she gets back, it's Jeff's van. She tells Jeff that she saw the ghosts of Rustin Parr's victims in the street, and she had to swerve to avoid them. This is the part where she's rocking out to POD. I think she just likes POD too much, you know. And he's kind of just like whatever, because she's like sitting there, and it's just like, I don't know, man, it was really fucking weird. But then when he turns around to look at her, he looks like Eric Draven from The Crow Salvation, where he's just been like electrocuted and his face is all crispy. And I was like, huh? But it's like another one of those things where it's just like a hallucination. It's like one frame of it, and then he's normal, and he's just like also doesn't care that she just said that she saw 7 ghost children and wrecked his van or whatever.
Also, like, he's just yelling coffee at her.
Oh yeah, he's like, can you make coffee? Yeah, you're right, he
make
did.
Me coffee. He's
yeah.
like, coffee!
Yeah, but overall they just kind of ignore each other, which is fine. The next morning, she should have. The next morning, they look outside, and the van, rather than just her having like crunched the front into a tree, it's completely destroyed. Like, the wheels have fallen off, the trunk is on the ground, and etc. And he's just like, what the fuck? Like, I thought you said you just dinged it. And they're like, and she's like, I did. And he was like, no, look at my fucking van. And she's like, how could I have driven it if it looked like that? And he's like, yeah,
dumb shit.
Erica,
fucking idiot.
Like, seriously, it's simple
Go
physics,
make
my guy.
Notice, you dickhead.
Yeah.
Go be in Fargo 20 years later. Why don't you? So, I also was watching the movie, and I could not figure out where I recognized him from until Chris came in and was like, oh, Burn Notice. And I was like, oh.
Is Chris 72 years old?
Yeah. I actually don't think I ever even watched Burn Notice.
I tried to because Bruce Campbell was on it, and I think I got like 4 episodes, and I was like, I cannot watch more of this.
Yeah, no.
You were giving your notice that you were quitting.
There you go. Erica is missing. They find her clothes and her jewelry and stuff laying on the ground as if she just vanished into a puddle.
She's Alex Mack.
Exactly. This was also kind of giving me the Craft vibes, where like towards the end, anyways, okay. And they're just like, okay, Jeff thinks that this is a prank. Okay.
Yeah.
Right? And like, to what end? And Steven, you know, since he's like a learned man, so to speak, is talking about, you know, like, something must be going on. Like, we're having a group hysteria. Like, just chill out. Everything's actually totally fine. But then on TV,
fine.
And then
we're
like
just having a group hysteria.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It'll pass.
Just a mass delusion.
Yeah. The sheriff, who is very familiar with Jeff, because as I said, he's, you know, had all of this stuff on the record. He's been like arrested a bunch of times or whatever. The sheriff calls Jeff and just like, hey, listen, you piece of shit, you better turn on the TV right now, because I'm telling you what, I'm coming to get you.
Sheriff's so angry.
He's like fucking yelling.
He's always like, you dumb little turd, why don't you fucking look outside your window?
Like, literally. And like, there's also, I don't know, there's also like there's nothing that actually immediately points to this being Jeff. He's just immediately like, that dumb piece of shit.
He just fucking hates him.
He does. Well, Jeff even at one point says, like, you've done everything you can to try and catch me for something. So the sheriff, literally, anytime anything happens, he's like, it was fucking Jeff. I fucking know it. So they turn on the TV, and they see that there's been an incident at Coffin Rock where the tourists have been found dead. Just like that group that went searching for that little girl in the 1800s, or whatever. Right? But now we know it was a hate crime, which makes me sad. Thanks a lot, Kit. So, That's yeah, okay, so they're like Jeff is like freaking out at this point because he's like, listen, I don't really know you people, but what you're not gonna do is just fucking leave and like leave me here to take the fall for all of this stuff because like we were all together. I don't know what's going on, but you're not gonna leave and have this seem like it was my fault or whatever, right? So they then immediately do something that you should definitely do if you're already having paranoid delusions, which is that they smoke some weed
yeah.
that he's been growing in his factory. I was like, yeah, good fucking idea. So they do that. Jeff is basically just like, you know what? This is Erica's fault. Okay. I don't really know how or why. And then they think they see her outside, maybe. This is also when because Steven is like obsessed with her now because he had this like vision of like making out with her or whatever. So he sees her outside. This entire time, mind you, Tristan has just had a really
Like miscarriage or
terrible.
whatever.
Yeah, she lost so much blood that she like looks faint, right? She's been having kind of like delusions. She's like bedridden kind of, and she's gone through something extremely traumatic and nobody gives a shit. She's just like in bed or whatever. He's now immediately like fantasizing about this girl, and when they think they see her outside, he's like, "Erica, Erica!" and he like runs out and the bridge just like collapses. And, like, good for Tristan. Basically, he's, like, hanging there off the edge, like, dangling over this, like, ravine type thing. And he's like, help me, pull me up, Tristan. And she's just like, nah. And she just, like, walks away. And I was like, you know
I'm
what?
all right.
Good for you. They end up, like, pulling him up or whatever. But, like, then also there's, like, this weird thing with dogs because they see dogs, but the dogs aren't really there. It just is like they're going on and on with these like delusions or whatever, right? So weirdly, then Tristan is basically saying like, "Oh my god, I'm having all these weird dreams. They're Ellie Kedward's dreams though. Like she's beaming them into me. Oh, it's so weird." Kim finds these like investigation files on everybody, and they're like criminal investigation, like if you were to interrogate somebody for something, it's like that kind of file. And Kim is like, what's the fuck's going on with this? And Jeff is like, I don't know, they're not mine. And this is when the sheriff calls back and he's like, listen up, you fucking dumb shit. I'm gonna fucking arrest you just for being a piece of shit, but also, you know, these people are dead. And he's like, well, I'm like really busy. I can't come down to the station right now. And the sheriff is just like, I'm fucking outside. And then
look in your toilet, moron.
He's like, so Jeff, this is like one of the first times we really see the proof that like the stuff that's happening on surveillance is like the real stuff that's happening, because Jeff looks at the surveillance and the bridge is intact. Like the bridge did not break. And you can hear the sheriff out there pounding, being like, let me in, you son of a sack of shit. And he's just like fucking yelling and yelling. But in the camera, the bridge is completely fine. And also the sheriff is not there. So he's like, what the fuck? So he goes and he's like standing on the other side of the door. And you can like hear the sheriff like banging and yelling and shit. But then when he opens the door, there's nothing there. The bridge is still gone. The dogs are there. The dogs are gone. Who the fuck knows? This is when they find Erica's dead, naked body in, like, a closet, but she's standing up and her back is to them. You know, much like Mike
That's how I
in the first movie.
like hang out in closets.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Mike Wazowski.
Much like
Also,
Mike
coming from
Wazowski.
closets.
Yeah, well, you
That's
know.
true.
The Monsters Inc. to Blair Witch pipeline. It's real. And I was
The
also
Blair
like,
Witch lives in the Monsters Inc. universe. It makes
there you go.
sense.
There's lots of doors made out of wood.
She's at the factory.
Mm-hmm. The factory is Josh's house now.
They're expanding.
Yep. Okay. I was also like, how's she standing up if she's dead, but she dead. There's like this weird thing where Tristan is like speaking backwards. I don't know. And then she basically is just like, oh, watch the tapes backwards. So they do that. And essentially, what they're showing us is what happened when they lost time that first night that they went to sleep, which is that they all were crazy and dancing around and being naked, and they had an orgy also. And they were the ones that ripped up the material. And it also shows Tristan giving everybody weapons, and then they went up to Coffin Rock and killed the tourists. And so that's why we've been seeing these visions of like the massacre the entire time, because like they did it and they, I guess, have been having latent memories of it happening. I don't know, but the proof's in the pudding. Like we have the tape of them doing it. And then they're like, okay, I don't know, that doesn't seem real, even though like it's on camera, right? And Jeff is basically like, no, this is actually Tristan's fault. Tristan killed Erica, and he's like trying to get her to confess. And she's basically just like, nah, I don't really care about like what's going on here. This whole scene is what we were talking about earlier, where Tristan is basically like, in their view, like at one minute she's like freaking out, and the next minute she just kind of like shrugs it off, like as if she's done pretending that she's like scared or whatever, and she starts to like goat them on kind of, and she's basically just like, you're all gonna fucking die. And Jeff is like, oh my god, Tristan's the witch, she's the witch. And she's just kind of like, hee, maybe. And she's just being all like fucking weird and stuff. And she goes up and she takes this like rope that she wraps around her neck. And it's basically just like, you got like, I don't know. She's just like goading them on and like name calling them. And she basically like says to Steven, like, come on, you little baby bitch, like blah, blah, blah. And he ends up just like pushing her off the scaffolding, and she falls and fucking breaks her neck. They've just killed her. And like in their minds, they think that she has been possessed by the witch. And so they're like, oh my god, whatever. And so then there's like a flashback of them, like Steven's looking down and he's seeing Tristan's body just like hanging there, and he kind of has a flashback of them killing the other tourists, which is something that we just saw. But like he's realizing that that actually did happen, because he's like starting to get his memories back of it, and he's like horrified. He's like, oh my god, what did I just do? What just happened? I thought that this was actually a really cool shot, because at one point there's like a under shot from like under Tristan's body up, and she's just like spinning around, and the way that it transitioned I thought looked really cool. Because now it just cuts to immediately to TV reports footage of them being arrested for the murders of Erica, Tristan, and the tourists, like up on Coffin Rock. And essentially, like what the news reports are saying is like, oh yeah, these horror fanatics were obsessed with this Blair Witch movie, and it pushed them to do murder and stuff. And then, like, duh, And so they're all being interrogated, like, at the end, which the interrogation of, so it's Kim, Jeff, and Steven, who are still alive. Them being interrogated is something, again, that they switched to throughout the entire movie, which, again, is so confusing. And, like, I just, like, don't really understand why they did it.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be more effective
basically,
if it just, like, was in order and you didn't see any of it until this. But I guess that would, like...
Yeah.
Because I guess when you see it earlier, it's like... It just seems like they're being unfairly questioned. And then, like, at the end, you see like, what actually happened or whatever. So I guess it makes sense. I don't know. It's just edited weirdly.
It is, yeah. I think that the problem is that there's just, like, too many things that they're switching between, right? Because it's, like, the orgy murder that they did, Jeff being in the mental health facility, and then them being interrogated. So there's, like, 3 different timelines, including the one that we're watching, that is being spliced throughout the whole movie. So it feels messy. Also, weirdly, towards the end, because I would very much say that, like, Jeff is the main character of this movie, but for some reason it ends with Steven. And so they're being interrogated, and they're basically just like, listen, they're trying to be like, Tristan was crazy. She's the one that killed Erica. She was, like, she's the witch or whatever. And so they're like, okay, yeah, here's the footage, my guy, go ahead. And what the footage shows is not Kristen egging them on and calling them baby bitches and being like, yeah, what of it? I killed her, whatever. It's her being like, please, no, what are you doing? It's me. It's Tristan. Like, what's your and she's like crying and sobbing. And it really just looks like they've just like fucking killed her for no reason. And Steven is like freaking out and is like, that's not what happened. She was the witch. And it kind of like ends with Steven screaming into the camera for some reason. And I was like, okay, sure. So that is Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2.
A banger.
What a fucking
It's still very
baffling movie.
Really weird, kind of a mess, but like also kind of fun in like a weird, trashy way, right?
Like, if you appreciate a sequel that just essentially has nothing to do with the first movie, like it does like
Yeah.
plot wise, but like everything else just completely divorced from
I
it.
mean, even
Like-
barely plot wise, they're just like, what if we just say Blair Witch and there's some woods?
Yeah,
I mean,
true
it
enough.
really is just kind of like, and like, I don't necessarily mind this as an idea, because if you're thinking about like Burkittsville, which is where this all takes place, there's like all of this shit that just randomly happens every couple of decades that's bad. And it's basically just like events that are happening because of the worst things humans do, right? Like cast out some girl because she was trying to like help kids or something, and then you're gonna like leave her out to die in the woods. That's fucking shitty. A little girl drowning, that sucks. A dude kidnapping and killing a bunch of kids, that's terrible. But like they're trying to pull it back all around to there being like supernatural shit that's happening, which is also very fine with me. The woods are already scary. And so like I don't as a theory mind them telling stories that are just like different things that took place in and around like the Blair Witch Woods or Burkittsville or anything like that. I just feel like you can't be like, oh yeah, this is a sequel, because like kind of, but it's just like they're in the same area and they talk about the same people that were not even the main characters of the first movie. Do you know what I mean? They were like legends that happened around the same time. And that's why I was saying it's so weird to me that they so focus on the little girl who drowned in this, because it's like the tombstone that Kim's laying on. Tristan is like seeing her ghost. Other people see her ghost. And like, for what? I like don't really understand that. And that, I don't know, whatever.
I'm gonna say they probably did not
happen.
put that much thought into a lot of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems so. I think that maybe the problem with the franchise is that they actually put too much thought into it, as far as like they wrote the lore so deep that there's stuff, again, that you have to read in order to understand what's going on in a movie, right? Which, like, in theory is fine, but I think that's why it just gets like muddied down.
But
in my opinion,
do you think that is shit that like the actual people making the movies did, or do you think that is just like studios trying to cash in more? Because like I would bet all of that stuff with like books and like extra stuff that you don't see on screen is like nothing from the actual creators.
I think some of it is and some of it isn't, and I think that like because some of the same people have been involved with like the other stuff and some of it's not. Some of it has just been like purchased or commissioned by like the IP. So I think the answer is like yes and no, if that
I
makes
feel
sense.
like Joe Berlinger was like, I'll give a fuck about any of this lore.
Oh no, I'm sure he didn't. I mean, yeah, no. I'm sure. It's really funny. Okay, so before we started recording, we were talking about commentary, DVD commentary, and specifically we were talking about how in the third movie, the commentary was basically just like, you know, we hate this, we're not telling you shit, nobody likes this movie, etc., etc. And apparently, I have not listened to it for this second movie, but apparently it is basically Joe Berlinger like watching it and being like, "Oh, they made me do
Well,
this scene and I
yeah,
fucking hated it."
he
And like, I think that's
he apparently
fair.
talks about that they filmed stuff and added it to the movie without his like knowledge. And
The
I
yeah,
fuck?
like
think
there's apparently like scenes that he had like no idea were shot and like added to the movie and edited in that he did not have anything to do with.
I also heard that like the scene, specifically the close-up splicing of them like disemboweling, the night of the orgy or whatever. I heard that that was like so late to be shot that it was like shot in his backyard or something. Because they were like, "Oh shit, we got to film this and put it in the
Yeah,
movie,"
checks out.
which I think is like so crazy. Okay, here we go. We're on the last movie.
Oh boy.
We have now gone we have now gone from the Blair Witch Project to Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2 to now just Blair Witch, which is interesting because
I
I
think
feel like
the
moving
next one will be
forward,
called Blair.
yeah, I think or Witch, yeah,
It's gonna be the Blair Witch.
the could be. Because I feel like it's confusing to me because going forward they just start saying Blair Witch instead of the Blair Witch Project, which is like fine, but in terms of being able to search for things on the internet, it's like confusing because there's Blair Witch, then the games are also called Blair Witch, but there's multiple of them, and like the term Blair Witch is used in the movie as just Blair Witch, and so like titling your movie that simply is confusing to me. However, I will say them releasing the way that they released this movie to me is almost as genius as it's almost because I feel like it's very hard to top what they did surrounding the Blair Witch Project. But for this movie, Blair Witch 2016, I guess they like kept it very secret what this movie was. And so they originally screened it at a San Diego Comic-Con. And they had the posters out there saying that this movie was just called The Woods. So people go in to see this movie having no idea that this is a Blair Witch movie. They think it's just a movie called The Woods. And so people are in there watching it. Obviously, you discover very early on that this is a Blair Witch movie because the main character, James, is like Heather Donahue's brother, and he is going to find her. That's the whole point of this movie. And then during the screening, they basically like changed all the posters from saying The Woods to Blair Witch. So when people came out, they saw the posters and they were switched, which I think is so cool. And I would have peed my pants if that happened to me.
Again, like I think about shit like this all the time with like Prometheus, where I'm like, just
Sure.
fucking call it The Woods the whole time, and let's release it and let people realize it's a Blair Witch sequel. And like, I guarantee you that word of mouth would have made this way more profitable than it probably was. Because like, I always think about like how insane it would have been to go see Prometheus with no foreknowledge that it was like an Aliens prequel, and you start getting like the Weyland-Yutani name drops and shit like that, and you would have been like, holy shit, this is like a fucking Alien universe movie. Like, I wish somebody would fucking do that, like with something like this.
I think the idea of that I think is extremely cool. However, if your movie is coming out in 2016, it's just not possible. Like we talked about that in the Ghostwatch movie, where like this kind of thing can't happen because of the fucking internet.
I don't know. Like I think something like this where you only really have like a cast of like 5 or 6 people. I think there's a way you could do it with something like this. And like,
well, I mean, like the minute people come out of the movie, they're gonna post on the internet that that's what it is.
I know, but that's what I
not,
mean.
Not
like
marketing.
if the movie came out, just was released into theaters as The Woods, and you know, whatever trailers, it's just like a found footage movie. You never fucking reference Blair Witch. You don't see fucking the weird stick design creature things. Like, I think you get way more people excitedly going to the theater, especially like the couple days following it coming out, because all of a sudden people were like, holy shit, they surprise released a Blair Witch sequel, instead of promoting it like that. I think you get a better reaction to this movie than what it was, because when you promote this as a Blair Witch sequel, people are going to go in with their preconceived notions of what it's going to be. And then when you have these weird fucking giant long-legged fucking creatures at the end, it's going to piss people off. And I don't know. I just feel like when you market, if there was like a different marketing thing where it was just a surprise release as a Blair Witch thing, like the only people that are getting that are the people that were like fucking Comic-Con.
I don't know. I like even if you market it as Blair Witch or not, like it is. So I just don't think that it would have made a difference. If like I think people would still not have liked it.
I don't think people would have
like
liked it, but I think you would have gotten more buzz around it, especially like
maybe.
by like Sunday of it coming out or whatever, where people would have just like, holy shit, a surprise Blair Witch sequel.
Well, it was still a surprise to me because I didn't know they were making it. And so when it came out, I was still like excited to see it or whatever. But um I also like don't really like obviously I think that there's some things in this movie that are really cool, but I just like also don't necessarily feel like they needed to make it, and like I can't really imagine like what another fourth movie is going to be about.
You
They're trying to find this guy.
now it's Heather's
Heather
Yeah.
and his other
Heather's
James
brother.
Donahue's
second cousin
yeah.
is going to find this guy. So, do
Yeah.
you guys both
Um
generally
Just keep the
like
chain.
this movie?
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's like dumb and forgettable, but I think it's especially the back half is like kind of a fun roller coaster ride, essentially.
Yeah, I agree.
This I mean, unsurprisingly, this is probably like my least favorite of the three, which is a bummer because like
Yeah.
I like You're Next a lot. I like the VHS segments that I remember this guy doing. I
Yeah.
don't know if I've seen any of his other like full length movies, but like I don't know. I'm generally I'm like on board with some of the stuff I've seen him do, but like yeah, I don't know if it's just like the slickness of it just did not work for me. It kind of took me out of it, but this was like a big miss for me.
Um, I think like yeah, I agree with Kid. I think genuinely, like I said, there's like parts in this that I really like, and I remember when I watched it for the first time, there were a few parts that I found like kind of spooky, but I do agree. I feel like you're losing some of the like perceived horror or like having to like really pay attention to what's going on and like again almost like scaring yourself because you can't really figure out what's going on because of how high def everything is in this movie. um and then I think that like it's back to being totally found footage, but I feel like there's just like, and like I totally understand like this is how people probably would go about it. There's just like too much technology in it for me because you have like hand camcorders, you have a camcorder that's like stationary in a tree, you have a camcorder, I keep saying camcorder. You have a camera that's like in their
A camera
earbud,
recorder.
and then there's a drone. And so there's like certain scenes where like they're cutting between, and that this goes back to like obviously not something that they thought people would think about, but this goes back to thinking about somebody physically finding this stuff and piecing it together. There's like the scene where the character is like climbing the tree and it's going back and forth between like the drone footage and her like ear cam, and I was like, that does not seem necessary to me.
Yeah,
So like
it's shit like that. We've talked about it some other found footage stuff we've done where like I hate the like digital effects of like making it look like it's breaking up or like whatever, that like you like if you know when you like film it realistically, especially in like the 90s on like tape, it
yeah.
just has those like skips or whatever, like the people running and the tapes fucking bouncing and shit or whatever, just like at like is like a realistic effect, and I hate like the glitchy digital effects they add. to make it look like that.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of like takes me out of like the immersion of the movie, I guess. And like everyone in this movie is so unlikable.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like they also add some stuff that doesn't really track with the rest of the movies. I don't necessarily mind the tall, skinny, naked thing that's happening in this movie because I feel
I,
like,
I like the lore behind what that creature is.
Can
Like,
right.
somebody explain that to me? Because I don't
Yeah.
know if I remember hearing what it is. I remember like at some point all of a
uh,
sudden they show
the
up and I was like, the fuck is this?
the the rumor for this one was that Ellie Kedward was actually like strung up in a tree and they tied heavy rocks to her arms and
Oh, okay.
legs to basically like a makeshift torture rack. So it like, stretched out her
Stretch her
arms and
out.
legs.
That makes sense. I
Hmm.
just remember
So
like getting to that point and I was just like, wait, what the fuck is happening?
what the fuck is this?
Like,
Yeah, and that's the thing, that's the kind of thing I was talking about where people are like, "Oh, I can't believe they showed the witch." And I was like, "That's not the witch. They literally said that's Ellie Kedward." And just because other people were saying Ellie Kedward was the witch doesn't mean that she is. And like I actually loved that detail because the thing that Kit was just saying is kind of like a throwaway part in the movie because it's told from Lane's perspective, who is this like chronically online like conspiracy guy that nobody takes seriously, and he just kind of says like, "Oh hey, this is actually this is what I heard," and then because of the idea that perception is reality, now they are seeing her that way versus any other way that they could see her because that's what he said to them, which I think is really cool.
I I don't know. Like I don't bump up against that per se. Outside of like I think the thing that works so well about the first one is that you never see anything. It's just like they open the tent and there's just like the fucking stack of rocks or like whatever. And like I
Yeah.
Sure.
feel like
Yeah.
it's just like it seems like that movie was a success and every studio just overthinks what they should do with it. Where like the stuff that is the scariest about that first one is just like you never see anything. You have no idea why dude is fucking just standing staring in the corner.
Yeah.
And then so like I don't know.
What the fuck is
Like
going
I
on?
don't necessarily bump up against them having these fucking this weird creature in it, but I also think it kind of like misses the point of what made that
Yeah,
first movie so
Sure.
effective.
I feel like, to be very fair, they could have done this. I feel like they could have achieved the same thing without showing it as much as they did.
Yeah, I think if you
Like,
get like something like
Sure.
Signs where you just see that one brief shot of like the
yeah,
alien walk by or whatever,
yeah,
like
yeah. And then the rest is just like the
but
sound. Because to me, the sound is bad enough.
but like I like again like I don't necessarily think that's the problem with this movie. I just think it's like a fundamental thing with studios and people where I'm just like, you guys clearly did not understand what the effective part of this was. It even goes back into like Book of Shadows where I'm just like, you guys clearly making this movie had no idea what was effective about the first one. But I think overall with this movie, I like it's the thing I bump up against with a lot of more modern slasher stuff where I'm just like, if you make all of your characters unlikable, I have no one that I want to root for in the movie. And like it's just by like I don't know, by like 20 minutes into this movie, I was like, I don't care if any of these people die. They could all fucking die for all I care.
I didn't mind Lisa, who is like essentially the Heather of this, but and like the brother was whatever, but his friend Peter I found
Oh my
insufferable
god.
because he just was like mean and a jerk to
And
everybody.
then like the one girl
I do
steps
also
on the
have a
rock and I'm just like, just abandon her. She's dead.
yeah, so I feel like while everything her name was Ashley, while everything happening to Ashley was gross and I hated it, her part of it is kind of like what I didn't understand, because there's no lore about stepping on something and having a creature in you. So like I just like maybe there is. Maybe I'm again, if it's only in auxiliary info though, I don't
Did
know
you
it,
watch
and
the
so it
Sci-Fi
doesn't make
Channel
sense.
special on this before it came out?
I don't think there is one.
I bet
Which
it's
is a
in the
misstep if you
Scooby
ask
Doo
me.
project thing on Cartoon Network.
I bet it probably
Kid,
is.
have you ever seen
It
that
was
when
in
Cartoon Network did an entire fucking spoof of this with Scooby Doo? That is legitimately kind of fucked up and creepy. Did Kid die?
Maybe.
Kid got Blair Witched.
Oh, R.I.P.
Alright, anyway.
Okay. Anyways, I remember. Yes. I wonder if it's on YouTube.
It has to be. There's
Because
no way
I would like to
it's not out
rewatch
there.
it. The Scranton Project or whatever, that one obviously comes to mind
Stupid.
first because it's like what? Um Okay, so I'm just gonna start the synopsis. I have again like a synopsis that's not super long for this movie, um, so that we can kind of talk about. Oh, huh.
That's weird.
Um,
I don't know how Discord works.
wonder if I can send him an. Yeah, I wonder if I can send him an invite or something.
I have no idea. I don't know how none of this shit works.
The Blair Witch said, "No, you shan't talk to him about Scooby-Doo."
We're back from Discord being
Hello.
blemished for a day.
What terrible timing.
Yeah, we were in the middle of recording as Discord went down globally, and then this is a couple days later. Kit is not here now. He is dealing with a family emergency. So it's just Katie and I. We're gonna wrap up some thoughts on 2016's Blair Witch,
Here we're back.
a movie I do not remember this many days on.
It's fine. Yeah. Hello. We It is really weird because I feel like we had just been talking about like how there's too much technology in Blair Witch. And then like I think we were in the like yeah, I don't know. We were just saying like we didn't re-listen to like where the recording cut off, because essentially what happened is like we're talking, just like giggling and shitting about or whatever, and I think you asked Kit a question and then Kit just didn't answer, and then he never answered again. And oh wait, now mine's saying that he's on.
Oh, mine just saying that he's not. It just
Spooky.
jumped to yours. Kid is haunting the Discord.
Yeah, so it's still being a little spooky. Um
uh,
uh
hold on.
anyways.
Let's see, Kit.
So
Do you have any opinions on Blair Witch?
slaps. There you go.
Yeah, Kit likes it, I guess,
Um
from what I remember.
Yep. My defender Kit is not here. Yeah, he said yes, he liked it. I don't even remember what the question was that you asked him, but anyways, that's how we realized that Discord was not working, sort of, because Nathan and I could still talk and hear each other. Kit ended up texting us and being like, I don't know what's happening, like, it's not working for me, and then it was like 20 minutes of us being like, I'm in, no, it's not working, whatever. So here we are, days later. I don't know if it picked me up saying, like, would it really be an anniversary for us if technology didn't fail? Honestly,
Yeah,
so
right.
it tracks. Okay, let's start. We're gonna do a quick run through of Blair Witch 2016. Okay. This movie immediately starts with some found footage video of somebody, like running through a house. If you've watched these movies, obviously you recognize this as being Rustin Parr's house, the inside of the house or whatever. There's like all of these weird roars going on in the background, which no thank you for me. And then we see what appears to be a reflection of a really ragged looking woman in a mirror, and it like still frames on that and pulls out because you hear somebody's voice saying, did you see that? So we're like looking at it, and it is our main character, James, and James is like, I think that is Heather, aka Heather Donahue from the original Blair Witch Project. It's weird to me to, I will say, like, it's weird to me to like pull this back around to talking about the original characters when like Book of Shadows did not do that. So it's kind of weird to me that they're like, I don't even know how long later this is, but
I'm sure it was more. I'm sure that was more just a like sign of the times, I guess, where like when Book of Shadows came out, the like outside of just saying it was a Blair Witch sequel, I'm sure no one really gave a fuck about like continuity, whatever, and where like this I mean, felt like something that, I mean, I don't know if like they were passionate about making a Blair Witch sequel, but at least something they felt like you know, giving the reverence to in making the story. Whereas like Book of Shadows just feels like somebody was just like, we got to pump something out. Just put those stick figures in somewhere in the background.
Yeah, right on the high. And like, to be very fair, any sequels that came out in like the early 2000s, I feel like did not give a shit about continuity. So, you know, it's fine. Now, basically, they've come up with this story that Heather has a younger brother who was like 4 at the time that she went missing, and now he is an adult, and he's been obsessed, I guess, with trying to find her. He sees this footage online where somebody has captured the reflection of a woman in a house, and he's like, hey, that's definitely my sister. Again, like, I'm not very good at math, but I don't know how he's like convinced that Heather is alive in the woods. It's been decades. So like, she's absolutely not, but like, I don't know, he's delusional, right? I do kind of think that like, you know, with found footage stuff, I think that like maybe this is an issue for you that you've brought up in the past. There's like, you either have to be somebody who just all in believes that, oh yeah, this is like found footage and I don't really care where the footage is coming from, like it's gonna be recorded because like that's the nature of the movie. But then there's like some people who also care about like the reason why things are being recorded. And I'm kind of like, I don't know. It depends on the movie because I go back and forth between whether I care. Because like there's been multiple movies that we've discussed where both you and I have been like, why were they filming that? That's such a weird shot or whatever. And I at least feel like the reason for them recording this movie like makes sense to me. So like the whole thing is that James wants to go and find Heather.
I think like the thing that this movie does that makes sense is that they came up with the idea of those like earpiece cameras.
Yeah.
Because my biggest thing with something like the first Blair Witch is I'm like, if this shit is going on, you would drop that camera and run. Or if you didn't drop it, all you would see is like the arm motion of the camera, like just going zooming back and forth as they're running.
Right.
Instead of like them just standing there. So like, yeah, that shit like doesn't make sense. I do kind of appreciate that this one is like, they find reasons to have this footage where like they use the drone specifically for like that one woman at the end to like see what she's doing or whatever, and then like they have the like the cameras that are like the earpieces where like, yes, ideally I'm assuming if you're running they would probably fall out, but I could go with like what like the excuse. Or like, you know, Paranormal Activity is another one that like maybe the first one, well no, because like I guess most of those it's like maybe 10% somebody actually filming, and the rest of it is like they set up cameras in the house, so you're seeing like static shots of what's happening. But yeah. There's some that, like I said, like, you know, if you sit and think about like the idea behind Blair Witch Project, you'd be like, why the fuck are you still filming this shit? Just get out of there.
Yeah. I mean, I guess for like Heather, in the beginning, her excuse is just that she's like doggedly
Like
addicted to getting everything on film or whatever. But this, at least, like, the people don't really have a choice. They're like, they've got the earpiece.
it's not specifically found footage. I guess I don't know. I guess maybe you can make the argument for it, but like George Romero's Diary of the Dead is like the plot about it is, it's supposed to be, you know, despite the fact that the first Dawn of the Dead is like in the 60s or whatever, that, it's supposed to be someone filming the night zombies start happening. So it's supposed, like, the idea is it's supposed to be like the beginning of like the zombie outbreak, but it's in like 2008 or fucking whenever that movie came out. But it makes this really interesting argument as to why the guy's filming, where like at the end the guy filming it like gets bit and attacked and is turning and like refuses to stop documenting it. And I think that's like another sort of like in the idea with this one, where like they came up with a reason as to like why this person would not stop filming. Like he wants to be the person documenting, even into his like own turn into a zombie.
Right.
And so like some of them I feel like do a good job of explaining it, but there's a lot of them where they're just like, there's just like you'll see some of the footage that they shot where it's at like a weird angle, things are going on, and I'm like, this is just like your cinematography is getting in the way of your storyline.
Right. Yeah. And so for this one, at least, it's like, sure, you can say like, oh, James is the main character because he is having everybody come along with him to like try and find his sister. But the ultimate storyline behind it is that we have Lisa, who is for her, like, I don't know if it's like for her graduation project or like whatever she's doing. Her research project is basically about closure-based trauma. So it's like investigating people who have, specifically, James's situation, where they've had a family member disappear and never recovered. So what does trauma look like for those people when they have no closure? Which I think is actually like such an interesting topic, and then also such a good cover for why like they need to be documenting everything, because it's her documenting him dealing with whatever's happening. And that's why they're kind of like going along with this idea of like, yeah, let's go in the woods and like look around, see if we can find Heather, even though they all know there's absolutely no way like Heather's alive, right?
Right.
So they've got the earpiece cameras we talked about, and basically it is Lisa, James's best friend from childhood, whose name is Peter, who, again, I think I mentioned this last time, he's like the worst. He's pretty rude to everybody. Yeah. And Peter's girlfriend, whose name I don't have in front of me, but I say later. So those are like the main group of people, right? And so the first thing that they want to do is they want to try to go into the woods and find essentially Rustin Parr's house, because they've seen the footage of both Heather's original footage, from the tapes that were found, where the last place they're seen is the house. And then this footage that he's seen on YouTube, essentially, was the house again that had the reflection of the woman. So he's like, we need to try and go in this house, because all of the search rescue efforts, nobody has ever discovered the house. The house has never been discovered by the police. So like, that's fucking weird. Let's go try and find the house. So basically, there's like this is like kind of the scene that originally I was like, why are they filming this? But I think it's because they're basically like out to a bar the night before, and like, in my mind, getting wasted and having a hangover the day before you go out and spend the night in the woods sounds like the worst possible thing that you could do. But they're like at this bar, and I was like, this is really weird. Like, why are they filming this? But I think it's because Lisa is talking to Peter, who, like I said, is the childhood friend, and essentially is like, hey, so like, do you believe in the Blair Witch legends? Like, what do you think's going on here? I think just to get some like insight as to how Peter views James, because Peter tells us that he was part of the search parties when he was little, which to me can't be true, again, because they're saying that James was like 4, so like that's fucking weird to me. But anyways, Peter essentially is just like, I think my guy is crazy. Like, I don't believe in any of it, and I'm just kind of like humoring him. And again, like I said, Peter's like pretty shitty about it. So I question actually if he even likes James, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I guess like they the one thing with like Blair Witch Project is like they're not friends.
Right.
They were like just like, you know, they just seemed like college students that wanted to go make this documentary. Where
right.
like these people are supposed to be friends and they all actively seem like they hate each other.
Yeah, exactly. Again, we're back to this fucking thing, okay? So, yeah, so they've got the earpiece cameras. They have a drone that has I almost said UPS. That has GPS. They also have walkie-talkies. So, like, you would think they are, like, set up, right? They have all of modern technology behind them, basically. So they seem like, we're going to go into the woods and we're definitely not going to get lost because we have GPS and all of this stuff. Like, it's going to be fine. You would think.
Yeah.
So they basically, their first step is they're going to go and meet the guy who found, quote unquote, says that he found these tapes, which is the YouTube video that James watched. And so we meet the two people behind this user profile whose name is Darknet66. It might have been 666, and I just didn't write that. But anyways, it's these two people named Lane and Talia, okay? And their meeting is like kind of awkward because, again, you get the feeling that Lane is very much like a chronically online, he's like very into the lore of the Blair Witch Project and Blair Witch and all that stuff, and is talking about how him and Talia grew up in the land. And like I said I was going to say the first episode. Like I said before, this is like the Appalachian. So like they all have these like very deep-seated beliefs about the area and stuff. But to lay people, he definitely seems like a conspiratory kind of guy, you know?
Right.
And so like Peter is just constantly laughing at him and giving him shit, which is extremely shitty. I mean, they did a good job of writing Peter to be hated, I guess, is what I'll say. And
like they do, but it's like he's so unlikable that it like ruins the movie for me, I think.
Mm-hmm. He's very annoying because it's like, why the fuck are you even there? Like, why are you there?
Yeah.
You know? It is kind of like awkward, right, between all of them, and eventually Lane and Talia are like, hey, we want to come with you. Like, the caveat of me showing you where I found these tapes is that we want to come with you and like experience what's going on. And they're kind of like sus about it, but they're like, all right, let's go. So the next day they're like going through the woods as they do, and they're talking about, you know, all of the lore we already know about Rustin Park, Coffin Rock. And Lane is saying that essentially after what happened before, like, nobody wants to talk about what happened anymore. And we also get more lore about, or changing lore about Rustin Parr, which is that, like, before we were told that he would take the children 2 by 2 down into the basement, you know, to have them face the wall like we saw in the first movie. But now there's...
when you're done, remind me, I had something I was going to talk about with that.
Okay. And he says that, you know, now maybe there's like conflicting stories that he didn't take them to the basement, he took them to the attic instead. And again, I think that goes back to the thing I was talking about before, where they've changed the Ellie Kedward story in this, where I think it kind of like is cool and it adds to the authenticity, because these are all word of mouth stories and they just will change over time. Except for now, instead of Ellie Kedward, they call her Ely Kedward, which is like strange to me. Like, I don't know. I feel like if you know how to read, like, there's one way to read a name, but it's fine. Okay, so Lane and Talia show James and the group the tree. Again, we're back to trees. Tree where he supposedly had found this tape, right? And the tree is like stands out pretty well because it looks like it's been struck by lightning. So the top half of it is fallen to the ground, but it's like still attached at the top, sort of. So it's creating like a not like a, like a. I was gonna say teepee shape, but I don't think that's a correct term anymore. But that's like, it's like an arch, right?
Right.
And then also there's barbed wire tied around the middle, almost as if someone was tied up to it.
Seems bad.
Then, they are crossing a river, talking about the story of Eileen Treacle, who was that little girl that got drowned in the river. And as they're walking through, because they had to take their shoes off to walk through, which I would rather walk with soggy shoes than take my shoes off and walk through like a wood river. Like, I'm just not doing that. Ashley, that's her name. Ashley, who is Peter's girlfriend, gets her foot absolutely cut open by a rock. And they have to stop and tend to the wound, and because it's getting dark, they set up camp. And so it's nighttime now. They're like around the bonfire, like showing close-ups of people eating hot dogs and shit, and it's like fucking weird, of course. Lisa asks who everybody thinks the Blair Witch is. Talia says, of course, she thinks that it's Ellie Kedward. And this is when we get the updated lore for her, which Kit talked about last time, saying that instead of just, like putting her out into the woods to die of exposure, they actually tied her up to a tree, or wired her up to a tree, then put the stones on her so it like pulled her legs and arms down, whatever. Then they add to the lore a little bit, which is like interesting because we haven't heard this before, but it would track all the way back to the original Blair Witch Project, which is that essentially the legend around the Blair Witch is that you cannot look directly at her or you will die of terror. So that kind of goes back to like Rustin Parr like having the kids like turn their backs. And then, when, that's the turn your back thing. If you can't see it, it won't hurt you. Great. This is where they confirm my theory originally, where I said, as long, like, you're fine in the woods until you spend the night, and then when you wake up, you're, like, in whatever this weird Blair Witch time loop is. Because, unfortunately, our characters do spend the night. And I think Lane is the one that says, like, because they're like, well, why are you fine if you've gone into the woods and come out and everything like that? And he's like, oh, you have to spend the night here. That's why Peter and James, who have been in, the woods for the search party, are fine because they didn't spend the night there. Spooky. Okay, so at night there's noises outside the tent. Of course, there's crackling, there's howling. Like, this is the first time I feel like we actually hear, like, nature in the noises, because it's like wolves howling, which is like a normal thing to hear in the woods, right?
Not for me.
Well, I mean, I don't spend the night in the woods, and I know that you don't. So, but I'm just saying, I would think you would hear animal noises more than anything else. And Lane is missing. So Talia because he had to pee, and he can't pee when he's near the site, the campsite. So he had to walk out into the woods, which, okay. And Talia and James go looking for him. He shows up looking all crazy and frantic, like he's already messed up, right? And in the morning, there are stickmen in the trees, okay? Ashley and James see the stickmen and are like, okay, absolutely not, we want to go home. And they're also freaked out because they've just woken up in what they think is the morning, but their watches say that it's 2 p.m. at night, or 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And they're like, how is that even possible? So they're like, let's go. We need to leave. Also, again, Ashley can barely walk, by the way. And so they're like, all right, let's go. Too bad they can't.
I'll just leave her there.
Right. They should have left. If I was Ashley, I would have been like, I cut my foot. I would have been like, I'm leaving immediately now. Like, I am not spending the night here.
That happens like so quick. I would have been like, I'm just going back to the car.
Literally, like, see ya, peace out. So they decide to leave. As they're walking back, Lisa is talking to Lane about his camcorder, because it's like an old, like one that they would have used in the original Blair Witch Project, right? And this comes back only because at the end of the movie, Lisa ends up using this kind of camera for stuff. And she finds twine in Lane's backpack. That's the same twine that was used to hang up the stickman. So she's like, oh my God, you guys did the stickman. And they're like, you're just trying to like convince us like shit is wacky. I bet you drugged us to make us sleep until 2 p.m. or whatever. And they're like, okay, listen, yeah, we did do that, but it's only because stuff actually happens here and we just wanted you to believe us. And they're like, no, okay, fuck off. Absolutely not. Like, you need to leave. And Talia and Lane are like, no, like, you can't kick us out. Like, we'll get lost. We don't have GPS or anything. And they're essentially just like, shut up. Like, leave. We don't want to talk to you. So, yeah, James is upset, obviously, because now he realizes that Lane actually probably faked the tape in the beginning and is like, oh, maybe that's not Heather. But, you know, the same thing happens.
I forgot how much they, like, try to bring the, like, first movie into this one.
Yeah.
Like, I guess because, like, at this point I watched it, like, a week ago, and it was the one out of the three that I was like, whoa, the most. So, like, I think I've just wiped so much of it from my memory, but, like, I don't remember there being so much fucking, like, Heather talk in it.
Oh, yeah. It's, like, it's all right back about Heather. So they continue walking, and of course, later on, they end up back at the same campsite that they've already slept at, that they just woke up from, so they are also going in circles now, even though they have GPS. Like, obviously, the GPS is all wacky. Ashley's foot is like real messed up, and so they decide that they're just gonna set up camp again. And Peter, who we found out in the beginning of the movie is actually an EMT, goes to check out Ashley's cut, and there's definitely a creature in there, but they don't really reveal it to us yet. Lisa sends out the drone to try and see where there may be like roads or a fence or something like nearby them, but when the drone goes up, there's just like nothing. It's just trees as far as the eye can see. Then it malfunctions and falls into a tree, so they don't even have the drone anymore. Then there's like weird static stuff happening with the walkies. There's like noises. Peter goes to get firewood, but it's like nighttime now, and there's like all these crazy noises, and Peter gets chased around. A like whole ass tree falls down on Peter, and then he gets grabbed. It's like kind of hard to see what's going on at this point because like he drops his flashlight and the flashlight beam is like pointed directly at him, but because he's doing the earpiece camera video like POV, it's like kind of hard to see what's going on, but he definitely gets grabbed or whatever. And then I like previously to that he was peeing on a tree, and I was like, guess you shouldn't have peed on that tree.
Yeah.
That tree said fuck you, bro.
The woods
and
are
he's
not
gone.
your bathroom.
No, literally, just hold it, okay? Lane and Talia show back up, and they look busted. And they ask Lisa and James when the last time they saw each other was, and Lisa's like, what are you talking about? We saw you just this afternoon. And which like starts the beginning of like the creepiness to me, because when they show back up, he's like, when was the last time we saw each other? Like, if that happened to me, I would be freaked out, because it's like, we just saw you. But Lane says it's been 5 days for them since they've been together, which is crazy. They've just been like stumbling through the woods for 5 days. And he says something which also would very much freak me out if I was in the woods, where he says the sun isn't going to come up anymore. Great.
I would just like kill myself immediately.
I'd be like, all right, see ya. The witch got me. I'm here, girl. Lane and Talia kind of like argue because Talia wants to stay with them, and she's like, we don't have any supplies, and Lane is essentially just like, no, like, we're still alive because we ran back into them, but they're fine, which means that everything is just starting for them, and I don't want to be like wrapped up in that. So Lane leaves Talia behind, because he says these people are gonna die and be here forever. Oh, I don't want to be stuck in the woods forever.
Yeah,
So
no,
he
thank you.
leaves. They allow Talia to stay, give her food, and she's like eating it like a little gremlin goblin girl. Um, so later on, there's like a bunch of tent stuff. Obviously, I left out, but Lisa's cell phone alarm goes off, and she's like, "That's really weird. I set my alarm for 7 a.m., but it's still dark outside." It is indeed 7 a.m., but just like Lane says, the sun is not coming up again. So the rest of the movie is in darkness. They go outside, and there are stickmen everywhere, like absolutely everywhere, and some of them are like life size, like made out of logs and shit, which I thought was so cool. And Talia, of course, is like, okay, yeah, we didn't do this time. Like, we definitely need to go. We gotta go. And so they're basically like all kind of like frantic at this point because Peter's missing. It's just James, Lisa. Ashley is like in and out of consciousness because of this cut she has, and she looks like very sickly. And of course, Talia is like freaking out, right? So she's like, we have to go. She's like examining one of the stickmen, and she notices that there's hair in one of them, and it's hers. She's got like purpley pink hair, and so like it's like very obvious to tell that it's hers. Ashley comes out and she's like, where's Peter? What's going on? And like sees all the stickmen, and it's basically just like, oh my god, like why are you back here? Like this, you fucking did this. She takes the stickman from Talia that has Talia's hair in it and like snaps it, and Talia's body just like snaps backwards in half.
I did like this.
Which in theory, and then they show her on the ground just like twitching and shit. Her body is completely bent backwards. If you think about this too much, it is a little goofy, but how like suddenly and unexpected it was in the movie, I was like, hell yeah. Because it just like happened so fast. You're like, what the hell? Because this scene is like, I think my favorite part of the movie. Because as soon as Ashley, because they're all like screaming, it's very hectic. She says, you did this. She breaks it and like fucking snaps. Because also it's like, why is the stickman all of a sudden like a voodoo doll? You know what I mean? Like there's
Does no one like breaks them in the other two, do they? Like I don't remember that happening in the first one, so.
I don't think that they ever touch them. Like, no, I don't think that anyone ever touches the stickmen. There's just really like the bundle of sticks that gets delivered to Heather, but when she opens it, it's like Josh's girl dinner inside of like his teeth and stuff. But like nobody really touches the stickmen. So I guess, yeah, technically like why we don't know. This is like new lore or whatever. But so that happens, and they're like, oh my god, screaming, of course, because Talia's like twitching and shit, even though she's dead. Everyone's screaming, and then all of a sudden the tent behind them just gets like ripped up into the air, and they're like screaming and they're running because they don't know what's going on. And then like as they're running through the woods or whatever, the tents are being like thrown at them from the air. And I thought this entire scene was so cool. I remember when I very, very first saw it, it like gave me chills. Like I was like, oh my god, this is so scary. They all get separated, right? Because they're like screaming around, as you do. Lisa and James end up finding each other, and this is when we switch over to Ashley's cam, and this is the part that I was saying last time. I don't really understand. Like, I guess it's because we're, establishing some new lore in this movie that maybe. But this just like doesn't fit to me. So Ashley is like looking at her leg. We're seeing her ear camera or whatever, and she pulls up her pants, and she's got like this cut on her leg. So she's like, oh my god, no, and she's like squeezing it, and there's like pus and shit coming off. And then she pulls like a worm creature directly out of her leg and just like tosses it away and is like, ew. And I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
I'm just like really scrambling to like understand what this is in relation to like the lore. And of course, like I said, I've never like Googled it or anything. I guess I could, but this is just like the one thing in the movie that I just can't like grasp. Anyways, we'll move on.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Lisa, meanwhile, her walkie-talkie beeps and Peter is like, help, 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 whispering for help. That's another thing I don't like. Don't whisper to me. I don't like it. It's creepy. And they're like, oh yeah, he's fine. He's fine. I wrote weird camera stuff. I don't know. So it's just like they're running, trying to like find everybody, and the camera, it's doing that thing that you don't like where they're like digitally glitching it and stuff. And like, I agree, it's not as effective to me because there's just like a lot of running around and glitching and then them reacting to stuff that we can't see, but we can't really see them, and it's like what's going on. It's just like a little too hectic to work.
My biggest issue is that like it always just looks like someone put like a fucking Instagram filter on the screen.
Yeah, like glitch film.
And like
glitch, yeah.
It just doesn't look good. And I don't know. There's got to be a better way to like make that happen with like digital stuff. But
yeah,
like just don't add the glitches, or like I don't know. Like I'm sure there's another way. I could not make this movie, so I don't like, like I always think about that when I like bash a movie. I'm like, well, they did more than I probably could have done, but it's just like, I don't know, it just doesn't look good to me, and I hate it.
Yeah. This is the scene I was talking about before too, where Ashley sees the drone stuck up in the tree, so she like climbs it somehow, and like I like the end result of this scene, but it also makes no sense to me because she's got a huge cut in her foot. She just pulled a worm creature out of her leg, and yet she's gonna climb a tall tree. Like, baby, I don't think so.
I mean, she gets pretty high up there.
She does. She gets pretty much all the way to the top because we see her looking up and we see like that essentially the drone is in the very top of the tree. So she climbs up there. It's like switching back and forth between like the drone footage and like her seeing it or whatever. And she's reaching for it. And as she's like about to reach it, all of a sudden this hand comes out of absolutely nowhere. Again, this is the very top of the fucking tree. A hand comes and just like slaps her hand out of the air, and she fucking falls out of the tree and hits the ground hard, and then she's like snatched up, and I was like, that's fucking sick.
Seems bad.
Again, I don't know, because there's also now this like this whole theme of like getting snatched, which like in the other movies we pretty much just see people disappear. Like, people are just gone. There's no getting snatched. Do you know what I'm saying? So, like, I don't know. Something's crazy going on here. I'll tell you a theory that I heard at the very, very end that I just, like, don't know if I look, but I can see merit in it. Okay, so she's gone now, right? Now it is starting to thunder and lightning as James and Lisa hear screaming, right? And so they follow the screaming to the house. They see a flashlight upstairs shining out a window, and James is like, Heather, that's my sister. And Lisa is like, listen, I don't want to go in there. Like, this is such a bad idea. Can we not? It can't be her. It's been fucking 20 years. Like, she's not alive or whatever. And James is just like, tee-hee, and just, like, goes in without her, you know? And immediately when he goes in, he hears a man sobbing, and he sees Peter in the corner. But then all of this whole house scene, I do like. I think it goes on a little too long because there's just so much random shit happening in it. And it's like all at once. So it's like a little too much for me on James's side to be like effective as much. But
I think my thing is like, like the thing that like works well about the first one is they're only in the house for like 4 minutes of screen time, maybe.
Yeah, it's like the very last couple minutes.
And this is like a solid 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And it feels more like it becomes more like a I don't know, haunted house isn't the right term, but
I
like
mean, yeah.
it's just like them trying to escape this fucking haunted house, and like I don't know, it just like it loses me completely.
There's some stuff that I really like in the house, but I agree with you overall because of some like I'll talk about it at the end. So basically, Peter he sees Peter in the corner. All of a sudden, Peter's not there, but then he hears footsteps running on like the level above him. So he chases what he thinks is Heather's ghost. Maybe it is. I heard people say that the ghost is a woman wearing like a beanie and like a sweater and looking like taggart, and like it's supposed to be Heather's ghost. I could not make out well enough like what she looked like for me to be like, oh yeah, that's Heather, versus it being just like anybody else, you know what I mean? Um, but the thing that we do see again is the bloody handprints on the walls, which is, like I said, the thing that like ties it all back to that being the same house. Lisa outside now sees the broken tree from the beginning that had the barbed wire around it. In when they very first see it, it's like when they pretty much first enter the woods. Now it is right next to the house, which is like fucking crazy. And she's like, oh my god. Again, really prevalent tree. This is when she looks over and sees a very tall, skinny, naked thing like lurking behind one of the trees. And this causes her to be scared, so she runs inside the house.
I feel like you'd be better off with this tall thing out in the woods.
Yeah, I have like really mixed, like Kit was saying before, I very much love the idea as to why this thing exists, but I think they show it too much for me. And I do understand having it be out in the, like lurking in the woods, because they're trying to be like, oh, this is the thing that's been like stomping around and breaking trees and like making all the crackling sounds and whatever. And they're trying, they, as in like whatever is the embodiment of the Blair Witch, is trying to get Lisa into the house, because that's where inside the house, my theory is that they can't really do anything to you unless you're in the house. That's like the source of the power somehow, right? So like the idea that that thing's going to be out there being like, what up, and it's going to scare her to get into the house, I'm okay with that. I just like don't really feel like we need to see it again after that.
Yeah.
If at all. Like, they're so good at the characters seeing things that we don't see that I just didn't need it to be revealed to me, I guess. If I would say is like my one criticism, but whatever, we see it. It's freaky looking, like I don't like it. I don't like the idea of it. You know what it kind of reminds me of? This is kind of like an older movie at this point, but I guess spoiler alert for it. Did you see Barbarian?
I did.
Okay, it reminds me of the Barbarian thing.
A little bit. Like,
I mean, it's just like
we
Go ahead.
we kind of talked about it like before Discord went down. It's just like, if this was like the same, if they did it the same way they did Signs, where you just got like one or two brief shots, I think it would be more effective. But once you see it a bunch, it becomes like less interesting to me.
Yeah, like this having it like peek out at Lisa or whatever, I think is fine. I think that you then do not show it once it's inside the house, because we know it's there. We know what it is, you know?
It looks goofy in the house.
It does. I agree. So Lisa runs inside, obviously, because she's scared of this thing, which is like not great. She's looking around for James. She goes in the basement and she runs into Lane, who, as you'll remember, to her, this has been essentially the same day. But for Lane, and she's seen Lane twice. The first time was when they're like, get the fuck out of here, you guys suck. Then he comes into the campsite and was like, when is the last time that I've seen you? And she's like, it was earlier today. And he's like, no, it's been 5 days. When she runs into him in the basement, he runs up and he's like, oh, you look just like I remember you. He now has a full beard, which in the beginning of the day he did not have one. So you can tell like time has been passing very fast for him, but very slow for her, which I think is a really interesting concept.
Yeah.
So that's why he's like, it is really so much like those time traveler stories you hear where they just say like fucking weird stuff but there is context for it. Like he's like, oh, you look just like I remember you, and she's like, what are you talking about? And he is like full on conspiracy bro seeming at this point. Like his eyes are wild, he's like panting or whatever, and he's like, she has to find people who remembered. You have to do what she tells you, is what he says to her, and then he like knocks her out and pushes her down into a cellar. This scene makes me feel very, very uncomfortable, but I do feel goes on for a very long time. And again, I'm not really sure why we're seeing it, because essentially she has to crawl through these like underground tunnels under the house that she can barely fit through. And like, not for nothing, I think the actress does a really good job here, because there's like a part where she can't really like fit her shoulders through, and she starts having like a breakdown, and then she's just like, she's able to like self-soothe and like calm herself. And I listened to part of like a making of thing that said they essentially like built the tunnel, and the actress actually did that, which props to you, because that could not be me.
Yeah.
I'd be like, no, hell no, I'm not doing this. And it's like puddly, it's wet down there, and so she eventually, and then she starts hearing like the noises of like the creature, right? The creature, which I speculate is Ellie Kedward, right? So she basically, this scene goes on kind of long. It's just like her digging through the ground or whatever. At the same time that this is happening, this is like the stuff with James where he's going around the house and he's chasing Heather's ghost, and he goes into a bedroom and then the door shuts and he's looking for the ghost and she shows up and she's not there, and like all of this shit, and I'm like, what? It's just like, it's kind of done in like sort of a weird way, I think, because like you said, this is the last 20 minutes of the movie and it feels like it should be way shorter for punch effect.
Like, I feel like 10 minutes at most.
Yeah. So she essentially gets her way, you know, she's obviously being chased by something. She squeezes her way down this tunnel and she comes to a dead end, but it's like a dead end because it's the side of the house. So she busts these boards down, she digs her way out, and she's like back in the basement, I guess, and she's immediately attacked by Lane again, but she has pulled out a knife to dig through the wall, and so she just stabs him in the neck and fucking kills him, which is, I think, is great. Good for you, girl. The creature starts coming out from like the little, how did that creature get through there? I guess it is really tall and skinny.
That happens.
That's a creature's tunnel. Maybe that's where the creature lives. And she's like, get out of my fucking house, bro.
What if this movie ended with like the Blair Witch and this creature fighting each other in the house while this person was just trying to escape? Like a Godzilla versus Kong style thing.
Like the Sadako versus whatever.
Or it's just like,
and then they skateboard. They have a skateboard
These
off.
people are just like accidentally caught in the middle of it.
Oh my god, now I have to do like a Ellie Kedward creature skateboarding, doing a flip trick or whatever. I would like it. I'm okay with it. Okay. So now essentially like what was happening in the tunnels, I do feel like it was like shot kind of a cool way too, where like when she's trying to get through the tunnels, essentially she has just the hand camera at this point, and she's like throwing it in front of her so the light will come, and we're like seeing it from the POV of the camera, but she's using it so she can like see where she's going. I think that's smart. But at this point she's got the handheld camera that Lane was using in the beginning, so it's basically got the screen that comes out the side and she can see that. So she has that, and then like, I don't know, maybe her, what's it called, is like, this is the, okay, so she's got the hand camera and we're seeing her run up from the basement, lock the door, do all this stuff, and then it flashes on a reflection in the mirror. It's literally the same footage from the very beginning of the movie we saw. So the woman in the reflection with the hand camera was not Heather, it was Lisa. So
I don't remember any of this.
Yeah, so that's why she looks like fucking disheveled and shit, because she was climbing underneath the house. And there's like no way they would know that was her, right? Because like this is like all part of this like fucking time loop thing. James was like stuck in that bedroom, right? He busts out of it and then they run into each other because now all of a sudden, even though he was on the second floor when he went into that room, he is now at the like in the attic or whatever. So they run into each other and they're like, they're in the attic. And this is another part that I'm not really sure how I feel about it. And it goes into some of the theories I've heard. There's essentially this scene where like James is walking in front of her in the attic and all of a sudden this light shines through the boards, like going up, like literally almost as if there's like an alien spacecraft outside, like taking off, and the light is shining through the boards, and then it just like disappears. So I don't really know what to make of that either.
Yeah, it feels like this entire ending, they're just throwing too much
Everything.
shit out there
Yeah.
that, like, bogs all of it down. Where, like,
Yeah.
the ending of the first one is so basic, but
Yeah.
like the way they edit it and film it, it just becomes creepier.
Yeah. Creepy and it's like
But like, yeah,
simplicity.
you could just feel like that this like the 2016ness of this, where like everyone
Yeah.
just feels like, well, to be like scary, it's got to have like 100 things happening at
Too
once.
much stuff. Yeah, too much stuff. Um, and James is like looking through the floorboard, not the floorboards, the side of the house, like at this light, and it's just like, what the shit? They go into like farther into the attic, and this is when James tells, because they can like hear, they've shown the creature following them up the stairs or whatever, which, like we said, we did not like. They run into the attic, and then he's like, get in the corner, like right as the creature like busts in the door or whatever. And James says, she only takes sacrifices, don't look directly at her. Interesting. So essentially, they're kind of like getting at the fact that like Rustin Parr was killing those children as like sacrifices to keep her at bay, and she won't actually kill you unless you look directly at her, which is like part of her like rules or whatever. So I'm like, okay, just don't look at her. It's not that hard. Apparently, it's really hard, okay, because he basically says he does the whole thing sort of that Heather does at the end of the first movie, where he's just like, I'm so sorry, this is all my fault, like this was my idea wanting to come out here. Then he's like silent for a minute and he says, Heather, is that really you? And then he turns around and is like immediately snatched.
Yeah,
You're not supposed to fucking look at her.
yeah. Way to go,
So,
dummy.
but it's like, yeah, not to victim blame, but no, I'm just kidding. It's like weird to me because I'm wondering why he could hear a voice or he heard a voice that he thought was Heather's. But from our perspective, which is Lisa's perspective, we don't hear anything, which I think is interesting. Um, Lisa is screaming, of course. I think that this is like really effective to me because she's got this like really scary, like dangerous creature standing right behind her. And the thing that's like keeping her safe is that she can't look at her. And like usually your instinct when you're being like chased or hunted or whatever is to like stay quiet. But she's just like outwardly screaming and screaming. So to me, that dynamic felt like effective. So she basically is like, I can't look or whatever. So she takes like the screen on the camera and flips it so that she's now looking into the camera and is looking behind her. So she is going to basically, she's like, gotcha, Blair Witch, didn't think about technology, did you, bitch? So she's like looking in the camera and she starts like backing up. The creature is behind her or whatever, but as long as she doesn't look directly at it, I guess it's like fine. And so she starts walking backwards using the camera. She gets really, really close to the doorway that she will be leaving the attic to like safety supposedly. And then she hears James's voice say like Lisa, which like she's fucking stupid because she literally saw him get got a minute ago. But she says James and then she turns and is like fucking snatched. And then, we see her camera fall. And that's it. Everyone's fucking dead again.
Finally.
Yeah. I do appreciate at least that they, unlike, like, we're leaving the second one out obviously because it's not the same kind of movie. I do appreciate that there is not a survivor in this movie. Um because it's kind of like everybody, like the hubris of human thinking like, oh, we're going to be the ones that are going to go and like figure out this because we've got GPS, we've got walkie-talkies, whatever. Clearly there's like supernatural stuff going on and they're like powerless against it, so they all also die. And I feel like this is just going to continue to be a cycle if there's like more reasons for people to like go out into the Blackwoods, which maybe like stop. But some of the theories basically are that this is like an extraterrestrial kind of situation, and that's why like all of these people are disappearing.
Is this just like
And then that is
people's
a theory.
online
It's fan theories,
okay.
yeah. Yeah. And that's why like technology gets fucked up in the woods, even though like again like it would in the woods, but technology is being messed with because like that's a sign of extraterrestrials. And then the thing at the end I was talking about where the lights go up, someone's like, oh well, that was the spacecraft or like whatever. And I just like, I can definitely see why people would speculate that, but to me it seems out of place because everything about the movies seems extremely like folklorish to me, which I feel like UFOs and stuff are like other to that. Like they're not in the same category. Even though I think people like lump like aliens and cryptids like in the same thing. I personally do not, but like maybe that's a me problem. But I just don't know, like, or maybe I'm just thinking like the idea of being like it was aliens is just like too hokey to me. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Uh, I don't know. I'm ambivalent. I think if you had a good explanation and execution of it, I could go with that. But
Mm-hmm.
I like overall, I think it's just another thing that like overcomplicates what should be a
Yeah.
like very bare bones thing. Like again, we've said it. Like the thing that works about the first one is how like just right down the middle specific it is. Like yes, you don't necessarily know what's going on. You just know that something like supernatural is happening to them. And you get no explanation, you never see any sort of creature, and that's what makes it effective. So like all of this extra shit in this and people like I don't know. I wonder, that just has to be like a symptom of like the internet existing. Cuz like I
Yeah.
feel like anymore everyone needs an explanation for everything. And
Right. Yep.
like it's kind of like we've talked about it with like The Void, where we've been like, you know, nothing's explained, nothing necessarily makes sense, but it works. And like I don't need an explanation of like what is happening in this movie. Just say it's supernatural and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think that again, like I still obviously found things of value in this movie that I really liked. I think of course it does like not hold up to the first one at all. I think the thing, just to like kind of reiterate what you're saying, is the thing that makes the first one so successful is that bare bonesness of like we only know what Heather, Mike, and Josh know, right? Like we aren't privy to like anything outside of what's going on as far as like they're not really even talking about it being even supernatural. And there's like some people who watch the first one and do not pick up that there's anything supernatural going on at all, which I think is fine. Like there's some people that are like, well, I don't think the Blair Witch is real. I don't think anything weird is going on. It's just they got lost in the woods. There's also like talk about how back like in the witch trials, some of the ways that they explain people having like the quote unquote hallucinations and seeing people and whatever, all of that stuff is because there was like ergot poisoning in the area, which is essentially like a fungus that grows on crops, and they were like very much farmers and it could get spread really easily. And so they're like, oh, like there's ergot poisoning, and that's why people thought that witch stuff was happening. There's also like opium flowers, that just grow wild. And so there was like, some people are like, oh, they, in their travelings around the woods, they encountered like opium. And so they're just like tripping the whole time, which like, I think there's merit to that too. I think the point is making it vague, and you either pick up on subtleties or you don't. Like, I 100% think there's something supernatural going on in the first one, just because of like the lost time, the time looping, all that kind of shit. But I feel like in the 2016 version, they're like really fucking hitting us over the head with the fact that there's supernatural stuff going on. They're like, just kidding, it was supernatural all along, here you go. And they just like really put too much into the ending. So it's like a little less effective to me. Like, listen, I already believed it was supernatural. You don't need to like continue to convince me. Like, I think for me, I do like the angle of the tape being that the tape that they see in the beginning is like part of the time loop thing, where like I don't really totally understand how they would have seen it. Like, I don't know. Lane is obviously some kind of like Rustin Parr character where he's being like controlled by something, right? I don't even need to see any of the creatures or anything like that. The tape being part of the time loop is like enough for me, and then them being just like swooped away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would have been enough for me. I don't need the lights. I don't need the ghosts. Like, because we don't ever see ghosts. Well, we do see ghosts in the second one. That was obviously something that they added, but there's no ghosts in the first one, and I just like didn't think it was necessary.
Yeah.
But like I said, overall I do like it. Like, I have notes obviously, but I did enjoy it.
Have you seen the alternate ending to the first one?
I don't think so.
I actually saw it like yesterday in between recordings, and it's not much different. I think the main difference is that when she gets down to the basement, instead of staring in the corner, he's just staring from the corner at Heather when she comes down the stairs, and then she gets like the thud and the camera drops. And I can't tell which I like better. I guess it's weirder that he's like just staring at the corner, but it also is like a creepy just seeing him just staring at her from like that same amount of distance away, and then just like the thud and camera drop.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's
what
also
I think
like
is better.
I think if I remember correctly, and I assuming this was played at like the same speed, because they played them like one on top and one on bottom, so you could like see the difference. But it's like the alternate ending is like she's like less frantically running downstairs. It's more like she's like cautiously searching through the house when she stumbles across him.
Huh.
It's like it's not much different, but like I had never heard anyone ever say that there was like a different ending for it, so I thought it was like interesting that happened as we were waiting to like finish this up. I saw it.
Yeah, that is interesting. I think my theory is that I think that like whatever, this is what I think is actually happening, because then there was like people being like, no, there's nothing supernatural about it at all. This was like all a plot for Josh and Mike to just kill Heather, and I was like, for fucking why? Like, what does that make any sense? They didn't know each other. Whatever. I think that what's happening, and the reason that I like Mike facing the corner better, is because I think that the entity that is like known as the Blair Witch is like possessing people, and if they're saying you can't look her in the face or you'll die, I think she's like using them to like do their bidding or whatever. So I think that Josh was hiding in the basement, no teeth and all, like, but he is the one that's like being possessed by the Blair Witch. So Mike goes down there to lure her down, but he can't look at Josh, otherwise he'll automatically die. And so that's why he's like facing the corner. And so then when Heather comes down, he just like fucking brains her, and she's dead. And then I don't know what happens to the people who are possessed. Either they run around the woods and cause mischief, maybe they turn into like whatever the creature was that we saw. I don't know, but that's kind of like because somebody's always missing, and then the people are getting fucking hit in the head. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like being snuck up upon. I don't know. There's just so many things to ponder. But
Yeah, I don't know.
anyways,
None of this is for me except for the second one because it's extra stupid.
it is like such a fucking weird like trilogy to call it that. Like it's it's just like weird to think back of like the notoriety that the first one has and then consider the second one. Because then like sure, like you get, the third one isn't perfect obviously. There's definitely some notes or whatever, but it is very much more a like serious real movie than I feel like the second one gives off vibes of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I will never watch any of these again. Unless I can find unless someone ever uploads the director commentaries for like Book
Yeah.
of Shadows and Blair Witch, I will absolutely listen to those.
I also want to watch the DVD version of Book of Shadows to like see the stuff that's like hidden in the,
the
you
the
know,
chapter stuff or what, like the screens.
yeah, whatever's being hidden in all that, like whatever. I want to see that stuff. But I'm sure I literally could just Google it and people will probably have like screenshots or whatever.
Right.
But um anyways, it was
Um.
fun. My whole last week was literally just all Blair Witch, so
All right.
it's crazy.
What you want to talk about some shit you watched since the last time we recorded in mid-August?
I don't think I watched anything, to be honest with you. We went out of town twice. You and I did a bonus episode on Your Next. We're still watching Twisted Metal. I don't think I watched anything, to be honest with you. Oh, well, I did tell you that I unfortunately and fortunately found a channel that streams Ghost Hunters
Right.
24/7. So we were gone 2 weekends, and then when I got back, I was super sick, and I literally just laid in bed and watched Ghost Hunters. And I think that's it because also football season started. So football has been on, and I've just been reading
Yeah,
instead. So
good.
yeah, I don't think I wrote anything or
um.
wrote. I don't think I wrote anything. I didn't really watch
Let's
anything.
see. I watched Vinegar Syndrome put out Yongary Monster from the Deep, a 1967 like kaiju movie, and it's fine. It's not like terrible, but it's very like cheap version of like Godzilla.
Hmm.
I watched Robo Warriors, which was a sequel to Robot Jocks that I did not realize when I started watching it, and it is also fine.
I don't even know what that is.
Robot Jocks was like a movie that I think Stuart Gordon, maybe Brian Usna, one of those two, like directed. That was like about essentially like giant Gundams fighting, whatever. There's people in these giant fucking robots like fighting each other, and then there's like a sequel to it that is fine. Caitlin's nephews were over, so I had to watch Rio, the animated movie, and then I made them watch Marmaduke, the live action Marmaduke movie where a bunch of dogs dance around to What I Like About You.
Did they love it?
I think they all went outside and I finished watching it.
Ah! Way to clear out a room.
Yeah. I rewatched Freddy Got Fingered because someone finally uploaded the Tom Green commentary track to it that I wanted to
Wow.
hear, and it's mostly just Tom Green being like, just talking about how crazy it was that like film critics took it seriously when he was like, yeah, we just like came up with this stupid idea on set and filmed it,
Great.
and how him just talking about how many film critics could not help but just be like, Tom Green is ugly. It's
What is
real
it?
interesting, but it's pretty funny. uh Caitlin and I went to a screening of the This Is Guar documentary at Kevin Smith's movie theater, where Kevin Smith the director of the documentary, and then 4 of the dudes from Guar were there to do like a Q&A and it was very good.
That's
There
cool.
was a like maybe 12-year-old girl who was wearing a handmade costume of one of the guitar players that was extremely detailed, and her parents were embarrassing the shit out of her.
Oh.
um, and then I started listening to, well, the first season is called In Voorhees We Trust with Gorley and Rust, and then they decided to continue, and now like I'm on to season 2 where it's In Myers We Trust with Gorley and Rust, where they did the entire Friday the 13th franchise, and now I'm in the middle of Halloween, so I've just been watching those as I go along. So I watched all of Friday the 13th movies, and I've made it up to Halloween 3.
Amazing.
That's pretty much it. Alright, what do you want to shout out?
Oh no. Um, I swear that I did have something yeah, like 2 days ago, and now I don't remember what it was.
Was it a book?
No, I kind of didn't really read that much because I was like listening to stuff about the Blair Witch so much. So, I'm gonna shout out our podcast.
Yeah. Everyone should listen to I Hope You Suffer.
Yeah,
Anywhere you
you
find
really should
podcasts, you
because
can probably find it.
the hosts are very hilarious and insightful, and they're just best friends, and it's just like such a joy to listen to it.
I don't know. I don't know if
And
we're ever insightful. I feel like maybe we've done like 5 episodes ever, like where we seriously talked about a movie. It's
yeah.
usually when we do
Well,
something like
but
I Saw the TV Glow, where we're just like, no, this rocks. Let's talk about this seriously. The rest of the time, we're like, what if the presidents all had to blow each other on a bus?
yeah. And unfortunately, I feel like most of the episodes where they're like serious discussions are all like Patreon bonus
Right.
episodes. So if you're not on a Patreon, then sorry, you get the dumbest of the dumb. But you know what? Whatever. I like literally can't even believe that the podcast has been going on this long. And thank you to everyone who still listens. Like it's great. And thanks for all the shares and the likes and all that stuff.
I think
We'll keep on plugging.
after these 3 movies, uh, we're at 544 movies we've covered.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a lot of bad movies.
Yeah, remember when our bonus episodes used to be us talking, it's like picking 3
I know.
movies every time? Like, what a nightmare. Why did we do that?
Well, because the idea
Anyways,
was it
yeah.
was like that people voted on a theme, and then we each had to pick a movie.
Yeah.
But we always
Yeah.
picked like
They're all
rare.
fucking 2 hour long
Well,
movies.
rarely did we pick like anything smartly. Like
Yeah.
we were just like,
Yep.
oh, Danny DeVito. Obviously, we're going to talk about 3 movies that he has like 4 minutes of screen time in, or like whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I'll shout out our friend Brandon Perez Sanchez has a new book out called "To Break a Pale Yoke" that you could pre-order.
Hell yeah. No, I think it's out.
Or yeah, I meant, I don't know why I said pre-order, but
Well, I guess, yeah, you could just regular
yeah.
order and get it.
All right. I don't know what we're doing next week. Um,
Dunno. Can't say.
I mean, it'll probably just be me and you again, because like Kit is gonna be MIA for at least a week. We talked about. I said something about the idea of like doing.
Oh, wait, I do have a real shout
Oh,
out,
all right, go ahead.
actually.
I'm gonna see. I'm gonna find something real quick.
Info. The shout out is that we finally have a new merch store. Because the website we were using, which was Store Frontier, just went away one day and never came back. And they didn't say anything. about it. They just disappeared and everything was gone. We tried Teespring for a little bit, but their stuff was kind of trashy.
Yeah.
So we have now moved to Redbubble. I have really limited experience with Redbubble, but people that I know seem to really like it. So the new merch is on Redbubble, and our we'll share it in a post. We've gotten brand new design out for the anniversary. And in hindsight, I did this before we decided on Blair Witch. I probably should have done a Blair Witch style
Nah,
t-shirt, but it
this is
actually
better.
is not far off. So yeah, so there's a new t-shirt there, along with all of our old designs on merchandise, including like just our regular I Hope You Suffer logo. So yeah, new web store. So if you want to buy anything, you're feeling nostalgic because we've been with you for years and years. The stuff is there now.
Do you want to explain what the the new shirt is?
Sure. It is I think I called it Shreddityville. It is the house from Amityville Horror skateboarding.
Hell yeah.
I don't think I need to explain it more than
It
that.
rocks. It's so dumb.
Um,
It's the stupidest idea. Because I remember you were like, I have this idea for like an Amityville skateboarding shirt. And we just slowly kind of were like, oh, it'd be so funny if like the flies were the arms making it do like the
yep.
kickflip or fucking whatever.
Yeah. So, I think this is probably my favorite shirt design that I've done so far because like the other ones are funny, like the original like iconic Sadako skateboarding obviously is like the iconic one. And then I've done always skateboard designs, but this one to me is actually the funniest because it is like an
Yeah,
inanimate
it's a
object.
house.
It is literally a house. And I like the color palette I used for it. I think it kind of evokes like a retro feel, depending on like what shirt style you get, obviously. So that'll be up, and we'll share it. Obviously, we'll have like the links in our link tree and everything if you want to check it out. I'm extremely proud of it. I really like
Yeah, it
it.
rocks.
So if anybody is listening who like the Death Toilet people want to make Amityville skateboard, like we're here, hit us
Yeah.
up. And also check out their movie Amityville Backpack, which kind of was the inspiration for Amityville Skateboard for me. So,
Now you have to just watch
not all,
Amityville Backrooms, where it's just a guy
yeah,
walking around the same two rooms of a house, being like, "Where the fuck am I?" for an hour.
great, love that.
I was trying to see. So I think when all three of us are like able, like whenever Kit's back, we're gonna do like a string of shitty horror movie remakes, or
Hell yeah.
quote unquote shit. There's some ones that I kind of want to cover just to discuss that like I don't necessarily think are shitty, but I'm just thinking more in terms of like all of those early and mid
Like or
2000s shit.
2000s, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I was looking at my watch list to see if there's like anything that popped out at me that like maybe we could do next week. Uh, you want to watch a shitty kids movie called Mail
Uh,
Order Monster?
Amazing. Sounds great.
It's from 2018, so you know it's gonna be real bad.
Oh, great. Even better.
Yeah, let's just watch that. The poster art looks incredibly terrible, and I'm assuming this
I
is
love it.
I don't know. For some reason, I thought this was gonna be like Disney Channel, but I don't know what the fuck this is. Anyway, it's obviously on Tubi.
Mail order monster.
It looks like it should be a Disney Channel thing by
Oh
the
no.
poster.
What in the hell is
I
that?
don't know.
It looks kind of more like a robot.
The If not, we could also do Beasts of the Bering Sea, where it looks like killer stingrays, but for some reason they're fighting a giant, like, construction like digger in the middle of the ocean on the
Like an
poster.
oil rig.
Not even like an oil rig.
Yeah. Oh no, it is. It's like a
Yeah.
bobcat. Like weird. All right. Well, we'll figure it
Yeah.
out.
We'll find something. But that
Damn
one.
sea
But
vampires.
listen, this Beast of the Bering Strait stars Jonathan Lipnicki
Oh wow. Okay. Well,
and
I did
Michael
see
Papa
that.
John.
Oh, of course. Oh, great. I don't know. Papa John's pretty big pool. We haven't seen him in a
Well,
while.
yeah, we'll figure something out. There'll be something stupid, but I think at some
You
point
know
we're gonna
it.
do a bunch of because I honestly I really want to do like talk about like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake from 2003, which is like I think pretty good, but like I think would be interesting to talk about.
Yeah.
And like there's shit like I've wanted to do for a long time, like the 80s Blob remake is really good, and I want to do like the 90s Night of the Living Dead remake that Tom Savini directed, but those are all like good ones, but I want to
Sure.
like discuss them at some point. All right.
Well, I'll pick ones that you won't like, so don't worry
Oh
about
no,
that.
trust me. There's a shit ton. Like, but like when I was looking at like lists of like just horror remakes, and a shit ton of them are just not streaming anywhere. Like a lot of the ones where I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this would be fun. I'm like, oh, these are currently MIA. So, but there's shit like we said, like 13 Ghosts is technically a
Yeah.
remake.
13.
Fucking The Haunting, House of Wax, all that shit. There's like we could do the Fog remake, which is real bad.
I watched that
I
recently
remember you
for the
talking
first
about
time.
it.
And woof. Yeah, our plates are full. There's plenty to choose from,
Yeah.
so no worries.
All right. Yeah, like Katie said, there's a new merch shop. I think it's just redbubble.com/IPSuffer podcast. But there'll be a link in show notes if not, and I will figure out what the actual address is for future episodes. You could join our Patreon at patreon.com/IPSuffer podcast. Like Katie said, there was an episode we did where she watched Your Next for the full time. So you go listen to that if you're on the Patreon, and you can find out whether Katie thought Your Next was good or not. It was real weird synchronicity that like that came out right as we were getting ready to record. The same director doing the Blair Witch 2016.
I know, yeah.
You can follow Kit at Hidden Kitstery and Kitrification of Blood. You can follow Katie at Werewolfface. Enjoy Katie's Patreon at patreon.com/werewolfface. You can listen to my other podcast, 8K Movie Club. We recently recorded an episode on the movie Friendship, which is a banger. Yeah. Too many years watching these movies. This podcast has rewired my brain into oh man, I can't think of what the term is, where the Stockholm syndrome to myself into liking all of these movies.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, the Blair Witch Project, garbage. Book of Shadows, banger.
Very good. Yeah, I do think about that a lot because, like, we kind of talked about this when Morbius and Madam Web. It's weird that I picked two, like, superhero movies or whatever, where people are like, "This is the worst movie I've ever seen," and then I'm watching it, and I'm like, "Actually, it's not that bad."
Those
and this is
fine.
blame for it.
I don't like.
Yeah, I'm like, you don't know. You don't actually know.
It's interesting because like I constantly think back about like when Kit and I first started doing it, where like the movies we talked about being like bad movies we liked were shit like Abominable, where I'm like, no, this movie rocks.
Right.
And now,
it's so good,
now we're like, Ghostquake. This sucks. It rocks.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, it happens. Everyone should just watch whatever pops up on Tubi until your brain gets rewired.
Definitely.
All right. I hope you get Blair Witched, but why? Thud. Scream.